What is up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with another Church of MHA episode from My Hero Academia, chapter 401. How y'all doing? How have you been? I know it's been a good while since we last convened. Hope everybody's doing well. We already know we got to get everything in the Discord. And we got to make sure. But we left off in a pretty good chapter. The clock is ticking. Waiting for basically the last student reference. If I missed one, then we're waiting for the last two. But we're waiting for that Bakugo reference inside of All Might's gear. And if I'm honest, what I'm expecting is that good old final explosion. MK the baby in the chat already. Appreciate you. Listen Ramirez. This actually has me looking forward to winter because I'll be less congested in theory. So Thomas is already trying to do his job. All right, let's see. Shola Ajimodi, Jacob Ramirez. Hey, what up? You did make it. Made it live. I appreciate you for being here. This chapter didn't seem to have as much controversy. Thomas and Samo for GR. All right. So that's nice. I didn't see a bunch of stuff freaking out. But then again, a lot of people were just talking about the latest JJK chapter. So Tiger Blaster and Tyler, what's up? Also, for those of you who have kept up with the Kagurabachi memes, I was playing a game of League last night, and towards the end, I said in all chat, Kagurabachi is the greatest manga of all time. And it was met with the response throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the Kagurabachi. So the Kagurabachi memes are just kind of everywhere at this point. Jalen Baxley, Tyler, Julian Burns. Look, I'm used to this fan of complaining. I just didn't see anything big enough that like warranted being worried about it. So the armor in the anime is a different color. The way I look at it is fun. The armor in the anime, if I had to guess, I think it's going to be either the same color as that, like it's going to be either. Sorry, I turned off my microphone so that I wouldn't be sneezing in your ears. Hey, Mr. Andrew. The I keep muting myself to not sneeze all up in your ears, but it's looking like I'm getting hit with the combos today. All right. I'm gonna just hop over to the chapter so I can start reading it and then possibly sneeze mid-chapter too. Why not? Next chapter is in 7 days, so no break next week. Let's get it. My body won't move. So we immediately open up where we left off with Stain on his goblin glider and All for One stuck in a place while glowing with his giant tentacle sticking out of the shoulder. Let's see. So we see Stain coming in hot. I surmise the state of affairs from what the Burned One and Ingenium were saying. Then I only had to follow the path to destruction and collect a bloodstain sheltered from the rain and wind. But it was all for one. Was it all for one's blood or All Might's? Even mutilated, my nose is more than capable of identifying blood by scent. No, not his. It told me all I needed to know. Ah, Almighty, surely you understand why I would dare to leave the shadows and expose myself. And hero can only claim that title as long as his soul burns fiercely in service of others. Say a god has fallen and prostrate upon the earth, and his divine soul has turned feeble and mortal. Certainly he has the right to cling desperately to life. Yes, I get it, Stain. Then come for the life of Stain, the man who murdered 40 heroes. I am here because you must live. You see Stain coming down with the sword. Forcible quirk activation. Bloodlet. He expelled his own blood. Akaguro, I had a feeling you'd make some move of your own. So I was sure to hold this helpful quirk in reserve ever since that day in Tartarus, when you were the only one to spurn my takeover and flee on your own terms. Ooh. All right, so that means that he was able to detect them, which makes sense because if you remember, which I don't think a lot of people will, but if you remember, blind AFO processed the world via this like infrared, which means that he would have just seen a bunch of bodies and stuff like that moving in their body heat. So he would have seen the one body, like source of body heat, trail off from the others and then hop into the ocean to swim away. So I don't know if people remember that that's how Blind FO was looking at the world, but that is how he was processing everything. So just sneaking off and being behind a thing and then jumping off technically shouldn't stop him from being able to process your body movement. In fact, it should have made it even easier to tell. What up, Bonzu? MHA manga readers can't remember what they had for breakfast. You think they remember that? So does that mean that was one of the things people were complaining about? Is that what you're telling me, Andrew? Oh, snap. Ponds are going to be in Canada. Depending on where you are in Canada, you might be able to stop by and visit me too, even though I'm in the US. We'll see. Oh, shit. Where'd that page go? Blood is blood, even outside the body. Fool. Antigen swap. Of course, I can overwrite my own blood type. One of the secrets of my long rule was never leaving a trace of myself behind. And draining my own blood has put some pep back in my step. Stain ain't built like, oh my, he ain't living through this. So let's see, we got a good old chompy chomp right on his core. And then him being flung through several buildings. Stain! Let's see, gaming center. I mean, I'll be taking your blood curdle now. Thinking back, you made valuable contributions to the growth of the league and by extension Tomura. But I'm afraid your role ended there, killer. AFO didn't end. All part of the process, Demon Lord. I never benefited from higher education. It was you who taught me what a hero is. Live on, triumph. My everything, my all. Ooh. He really did splatter Rooney the guy. I mean, I just said that Stain wasn't going to get to survive, but that I still wasn't exactly expecting the liquefaction of Stain. Hercules, you are totally scrapped. One final shield. You must live on. Toshinori, you can do it. Toshinori, this tale still being written. You can do this, Toshinori. Master, no, I'm hallucinating. This is just me giving myself a pep talk. Your support items, your legs, all you've been given, all rendered useless. You can fight no longer. However, you are not dead yet. Do your worst. Ooh. All for One is nearing Tamura Shigaraki. He's within range to use his loop ward. Hold on. Hold up. Hold up. Because they were like, oh, the problem with tools is that they cannot go beyond their limits. And it's looking like Hercules went beyond, which I appreciate from the standpoint of it makes sense that what is effectively an AI that has been kicking it with All Might would understand that need to go beyond and make sure to try to save them. But hold up. Mr. Andrew, it's a parallel for Deku crawling from chapter 2. Oh yeah, All Might was never gonna kill Stain. Ever. Like Stain was coping, thinking that he was ever gonna die to thinking he was gonna die to fucking All Might. Like, no, that just wasn't gonna happen. Like, that's not the hero you idolized. And that's why I always say it's crazy that Stain somehow idolized All Might so much while misunderstanding who he was to such a degree that it's honestly a little insane. Like, you're sitting here telling yourself that the only person who can kill you or the person you're going to have kill you is the guy who has no interest in killing you. Like, am I nuts? Am I nuts for thinking that's insane? Like, All Might would murder, All Might will gladly murder All for One. Because that's like the condition of having One for All, right? Like, you put All for One in a pack. You permanently remove that scourge from the universe. You don't equate that to a very mentally unhealthy, to put it mildly, serial killer in Stain. Mr. Andrew said this. Oh yeah, I read this super chat parallel stack. You probably for chapter 2. And then Joseph said the fact that I had more of an emotional response with the death of a car than I did other series spoiler withheld. That did actually move me more, and I'm embarrassed to say it. Maybe not. Maybe not. Because the way that other one was handled. So what I'm trying to figure out, and what it looks like is happening here, is I can't tell if it's just like the angle, but yeah, it was just the angle in that final All Might shot. Because I'm looking at it now and I can see his other arm at least. Because if you look at it, that final shot, it almost looks like his arm is cut off, but there's just an end to like the hatching and the sketching. So it's just like a slight drawing error there. His arm doesn't go all the way to the end of the panel for some reason. But we can see he has both arms. We got full-blown confirmation that his legs don't work. So that is no longer speculation. This is possibly the most terrifying shot of All Might in the entire series. Caked in blood, smile wide, crawling on the ground with UA in the background like some kind of broken half moon. You can actually see what appears to be explosions from Deku versus Shigaraki in the background as well. Yes, please do like the stream. These things help. The algorithm is wicked and cruel and a fickle mistress.
Oh,
Hello, Thomas.
hello. Also to Joseph too. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey,
Oh
how
my
you doing,
God.
boys?
I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel. Because on one hand, I thought he was missing an arm as well. And I feel like that is the maybe it's because of the paneling.
Yeah, it's a drawing error.
But I thought also the one on the top right, that panel where you see him like kind of getting up was, to me at first, I thought that was him in the afterlife or in his own head. But now it makes sense.
I mean, that still could be because he looks cleaner in that panel than he does in in this one. But
In
I'm
the
gonna
Do Your Worst
assume
panel, yeah.
that All Might is damaged enough that he would need both arms to stand up. But
Yeah.
you could look at this first panel as him crawling away from the conversation, and then the Do Your Worst panel as what's happening in the actual story.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
but speaking on that panel itself, I do want to mention something that came to mind was like the smile All Might has is very reminiscent of like a mad villain, right? It's very Joker-esque.
yes.
And the way he's drawn, to me, it's reminiscent of how Deku was drawn during the Deku Black arc. Look at the way he's bloody, disheveled, crawling on the ground. He the way he's drawn straight up reminds me of the costume Epsilon, like the destroyed version that Deku had towards the back half of the arc, and just like how that costume reflected and embodied how Deku's aspiring mental state was. The smile is doing the exact same thing. And one of the questions that the community has been asking for the longest is who was the villain that Night Eye was talking about, and especially with like how Night Eye popped up here, it's 99% All For One. With the end of the chapter, it could point towards Shigaraki because we are close to there, but I definitely think it is All For One.
I had been leaning towards Shigaraki for most of the series, just because I was like, you know what, Night Eye in theory would have seen All For One when he was using his quirk, depending on when he used it at some point in All Might's timeline, and been able to recognize him as All For One. Assuming that Night Eye had any idea of how he looked. But with them emphasizing that Shigaraki is close now, good morning, Trippy, Madman, Cameron Bailey.
Hello.
I'm at that juncture where it's like, it could be that. What up, Bo? But it could also be that.
Hey.
That Shigaraki. And I really think that it's most fulfilling for it to be Shigaraki, because I think All For One gets to win this last fight, right? But I don't think All For One as a character, especially because we want Shigaraki to. We know that Shigaraki unless Horikoshi just goes, you know what? What if I make everybody sad and disappointed?
Okay.
We know that
You know what?
Shigaraki's not going to finish the story completing all of his dreams, but I think that him killing All Might is one that is reasonable for him to get to achieve, so that it's not a complete victory for the heroes.
You know what I was just thinking about? He does not kill Gran Torino, and like we've all said, it's like, why didn't that happen? Because like Gran Torino's like, he's still alive. But I could see the logic to that if instead it was like to sort of like introduce this kind of false positive, like, okay, well, maybe he hasn't necessarily done anything personally to Deku that's too far gone. But if he is the one to kill All Might, then that's really going to test him on his determination to save him. It's like, and you know what? You know what's probably going to happen if Shigaraki is the one to kill him, then Deku is probably going to forget about his saving goal for a while and is just going to try to kill him outright. But I think he will still manage in the end. But still, oh man,
To a certain degree, if Shigaraki does kill All Might, he also does achieve the like real core of his dream, which is removing the part of society that led to people just not helping him, right? Because that complacency that we see in all the heroes and everybody is a direct result of All Might. So completely removing that stain from his life, plus killing All for One, because I don't think Deku's going to kill All for One. I don't think that's his body. Especially with All for One trying to get closer so that he can take control of the body.
I mean, the closest we'll ever get to like Deku, quote unquote, killing All for One was the vestige All for One, which he didn't kill. Like, that isn't Deku's, like, that's number one, not Deku's battle, like you said. Number two, that's Shigaraki's kill right there. And I can't wait to see next chapter, because from what we can see, the gloop warp quirk is going to activate.
I just love that final shot of him. Is like, it's All Might down below, and then you got UA in the distance, and it's like, it's already like, it's visualizing the choice. It's like, is he going to finish the job, or is he finally going to go over there? Or is, as you guys have been indicating, is he going to have it both ways, where he brings both himself and All Might to the scene of the final battle to sate his ego? Because I feel like he's given so much effort to kill All Might right now that, like, I feel like he would want him along, like, to keep him alive just long enough to see him win. He's like, he could outright kill. He could have outright killed All Might during this battle, but he hasn't, because he wants him to suffer. Now, there's no better way than making him suffer than for All for One, than for him to see All for One succeed. So,
and he's gonna try to do it in front of Deku, because if you remember, that was like the whole point of like killing Bakugo, right? Killing Bakugo.
Leave a gift,
make Deku see it, make him lose his cool, make him easy to take out. Deku brought it back together after seeing Bakugo. Mirio was able to, talk him down. Mirio's not there right now, and there ain't no edge shot fixing this. Like, his legs are noodles. Depending on if he has that right arm in the real world or just his imagination, the man is in shambles. Thoroughly annihilated. And it's not looking too good. And All for One can never just finish the job. He always goes for the ego play. Like, why did All for One lose that Kamino? Because All Might was stronger? No. Because he sat there blasting All Might, looked at him and was like, finally, you don't have your muscle form. Now I'm going to punch the shit out of you like you punched me. He could have just started blasting again And that would have been it. It would have been over. 2 more projectiles and All Might's dead at Camino. But Aquaman always has to be Betty. And he's gonna be like, oh, as the demon lord, it's my right. Look at this, even the world agrees. That's why your apprentice has been brought to me so that I can show him your corpse, blah, blah, blah. You think Dobby's the only one who's gonna pull the hey kid? You wanna see a dead body card? No. No. He almost has to. Also, I want you guys to know that Bulk made me look at spoilers for a series this week because I woke up to a message he sent at like 2:30 in the morning that was like, this is dumpster juice.
Okay, I will say it was a very heated, very emotional moment for me. A certain other series did something that I didn't necessarily like, and upon reading, okay, here's the thing with JJ, it's JJK. Let's just
I was gonna ask if it was.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing with JJK, the translations for it have been garbage for a very long time. Like ever since John Wary replaced like that Ukrainian fascist guy, whoever he was, yeah, that hasn't been great. And so you had the fan scans, which was kind of like your best version for a while, but even that had kind of slipped through the cracks. I read this chapter official. Dude, this new translator is incredible. They're great. But anyway, that aside, I think it's very curious that certain things are kind of syncing up between JJK and MHA once again. No spoilers given. But now that we're on the topic, Aniki, what did you think of the chapter? Have you had a chance to read it yet? Or
Oh, I read it and I got mixed feelings on it. I think the author comment that he's like, it might seem like I forgot to write a chapter feels correct.
yeah, I feel like he tried very hard to sync this up with the anime.
Yep.
And it didn't really pay off, I feel.
As I understand, the same thing happened in season 1 with a character's introduction.
Yeah.
With their at this point, I think it's confirmed their exit.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, what happened was like felt inevitable. It had to happen at some point for the story to kind of have any meaningful tension, but at the same time, it was like I think there's a man, there's a lot I like about it, but there's a lot I really don't like about it. I'm gonna say that much.
The memes about it have been incredible, though.
They've been funny.
Can I be honest? I think the funniest thing is checking TikTok and like that side of Twitter, because all the reception was, number one, hilarious, number two, tragic. There's like 2 moments in this chapter that made me so mad, and obviously it's that, what he brings up.
Blazing.
And I'm trying to jump around or like tiptoe around the spoilers.
Yeah.
But on page 3, that frustrated me a lot because that was something I really wanted to see. What the fuck, gay?
Yeah,
and number 2, it's the confirmation of this character not, doing his best. That
oh, dude, he was
that's
very
bullshit.
deceptive. He was very deceptive with how he showed things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like that particular thing. I was like, no, that doesn't even make sense.
I think but the fire extinguisher, like that's just more proof.
I mean, like, okay. Sukuna says earlier in the fight that the narrator actually said that for the first time in like 1,000 years, Gojo, no, Sukuna felt fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking back on it, that takes on a bit of a different context now, where I don't think it's necessarily contradictory, but again, it was kind of deceptive. It was very like. Anyway, that's that. I think JJK is gonna head towards an okay ending, but I can't say like I'm really super enthused about it anymore. But yeah, again, we'll see. I also think that there's a high chance this comes off better in the anime. I think they're definitely in a position where they're probably gonna have to add some stuff because this just was like this was not it.
They need to add a whole chapter,
Yeah.
a filler episode at this point. But moving from JJK, because I assume a lot of people in the chat don't read it, so I don't want to continue this conversation just in case there's a spoiler. Let's talk about Stain, because that's a huge part of this chapter, and I want to know how people feel about his possible, exit, which I assume is he's dead.
If you think about it, his name was foreshadowing.
What, hero killer?
What do you got it?
It took me a few. It took me a few
God.
seconds, but I got what you're putting down. I picked it up.
God damn it. Okay. I
I
thought
thought
Stain's
Stain.
Stain's
floor.
inclusion in this chapter was pretty well handled, actually. We also got an explanation of how AFO like further managed to sneak under the radar. It's like, oh, you can just eject blood from his body and still be fine.
Yeah, I was like, I know you're OP, but bro, come on. How many hacks do you have? But it's like he's been around forever. Like, and the thing is that to a certain degree, if you think about it, we haven't seen Alphabet do a lot of bullshit that you would associate with somebody with the level of, like, in theory, with the amount of quirks and stuff like that access he has to, right? Like
he has a hotkeys tab of like his 9 or 10 favorite quirks to use, and he just spams those over and over and over again. And then he's like, oh shit, I'm getting pressed. Time to go into the ability wheel and select the thing that I don't use as often for this specific situation.
Andrew sent a super chat.
Yep.
As well.
And I think this one is very poignant. As Mr. Andrew has pointed out, that it was rather sweet that Sakuma told Gojo that he was the cutest in the world. We should be honored that Gege actually added stakes, unlike the other authors in the
Something I wanted to add to the conversation before we move on to like the stakes is like, I think this is probably the Bloodlet quirk is probably one of the most creative ones All-For-One has shown. Like the ability to just change to expel, and then to after that antigen swap, where you can just overwrite the blood type. Because up until this point, I'm pretty sure we just had unknown as his blood type. Now we know why it's unknown, because he keeps switching it, which I think is cool. That's really badass.
Well,
it was a really raw moment.
Hey, what's up, Seth?
Good morning.
Because on one hand, it's like, oh, like that, like it seems almost contrived, but at the same time, it's like, no, like if there are quirks that are more effective depending on your blood type, it makes sense that at some point a quirk that counters that kind of stuff would have been in existence.
He can also just search for whatever he thinks he needs now, thanks to, search. So yeah, no, he literally has, it's like shopping for him now. It's like, okay, what quirk do I need? Looks around,
Let me go down the aisle.
Let me go check the other aisle in the city over there.
I do think like it may be contrived to most people, but it makes sense with All-For-One's character, considering that he purposely like hides in the shadows. He doesn't want himself to be known up until Kamino. So of course he would have a quirk that would like disguise, because blood tests. Not to mention, he also we know that he has a bunch of quirks to make up for the lack of like sight or hearing. So it's just boosting himself. I like it. I personally think this is cool.
I can only imagine what it's been like to try and like get on his trail, like on the up and up, like do actual police work, because it's like, okay, we got him. And it's like, oh no, my blood type doesn't match. Sorry, it couldn't have been me. You got the wrong guy. And it's like, just what? No, he must have been quite the mob boss of sorts in his heyday.
Know what? Like, I think it was Gambit who said to me, pointed out that like that All For One's blood type was unknown, and I'm like, well, I guess that's just because he's mysterious, but no, it's genuinely because he swaps out his blood type all the time, so he doesn't have one, basically. Which
And
is
again,
wild.
it's also just a raw moment too. Like, holy cow.
It was okay. I'm not gonna lie. It was giving me some of those eyes and chills, you know. Oh man, next week, man. Oh boy, like okay. Here's the thing. All For One is a very, very petty person. Like, he's supremely petty. So we've been discussing, Seth, before you arrived. We were discussing, okay, well, is All Might going to be warped over there along with them? And it's looking like he probably is. So I'm just wondering, because Deku versus Shigaraki has been going on this entire time, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be a little disappointed if we don't zip back to like when that all started.
Yeah, I had the same like process when I was reading the chapter, walking. I was like, it'd be really disappointing not to go back to it, because we're like, he's off screening so much potential, like conversations, combat. Like, it would make sense for him to do at least one chapter of a time rewind.
No, yeah, and plus, like I get it. Like, technically, story wise, I can just see it being a raw fight. Like, if he does off screen it, I would understand it to a point, because like the plot wouldn't be progressing; they would just be fighting. But like,
Well, they'd have to be
like,
talking about something.
it would be so cool though to actually watch. Like, I really hope he doesn't. I agree. Like, just. It's similar to like the Iron Might versus All For One thing. Like, it's something you kind of should just do because it's shonen. Like, I'm sure obviously we're not going to be short on Deku fighting moments, like we're gonna get that, but like, still, like, show us the 1-on-1, please. Don't off screen it.
I don't think we have to worry about the off-screen moment coming into it. Like,
the Blackbeard's true.
Oh my god, I saw the funniest edit of that.
Yeah, the one with JJK. I saw that too. It was funny.
that was the meme I was talking about.
I'm gonna teach you the off-screen no me.
ultimate power.
We have blue hockey, we have green hockey, and now we have off-screen hockey. I love it.
For the record, there's a channel on TikTok that just specializes in like text-to-speech videos. It's like, I was talking with Oda the other day, and he told me about the blue hockey that Barlog has, the most powerful hockey in the verse.
I love that.
Oh man.
Let's see.
Okay, so how old do we think All For One is right now? Because like last week we didn't really get a good look at him because he was like super shiny.
Yeah,
but now, like, I was wondering if he was I was wondering if he was like 9 or 10. He looks more like Deku middle school, honestly.
Yeah, I agree
14,
with that.
15.
Yeah, probably literally the age that. Well, he's probably younger than them by now, but 14 to 15 does sound about right.
That was when we first saw Deku, so it's like
it could
or
be.
he's the parallel merchant, so I feel like he's definitely gonna have All For One at the same age as Deku was when this all started.
Yeah. 14 does make sense.
And
I gotta say another thing. Dad for One. That theory has been disproved and just completely discarded by now.
Or he keeps killing it.
Yeah, I don't know why people keep bringing it up as if it isn't dead 1,000 times over by now.
Are people really?
You don't think All For One, supreme asshole of the universe, would go this long with so much uncertainty about stealing One For All and like completing his goal? You don't think he would have pulled that card by now and said, "Oh, hey, you're beating up your dear old dad"? It's like, oh. Like he would definitely use that to throw Deku off.
Joke's on you all. Joke's on you, All for One. All Might is my father.
So that's kind of been the thing too, is that the way All for One talks to Deku versus the way All for One, even to this day, talks about his little brother, even if it's some weird, like some borderline psychotic obsessive stuff, is so vastly different that, and like, I know some people like, well, like Deku's rebelling against him. No, doesn't matter. Because what did his brother do?
I'm kind of surprised no one has like accounted for the freckles, because for the longest in the community they were like, oh, we couldn't see All for One's face, so he definitely has freckles. But throughout the entirety, we've never seen the freckles.
I like.
So I wonder where those people are at. Are they hiding? Did they admit defeat? Because I appreciate that. Thank you.
Here's the other thing. All for One is a narcissistic parent. Like, he's very much characterized as one. As like, that's the whole reason why he wants to literally live vicariously through Shigaraki. So, like, given his emphasis on blood and his obsession with his brother, if Deku really was his kid, I'm gonna be honest, this entire story would be flipped and he'd be trying to possess Deku instead.
Yeah.
Like, he's not interested in that. He just wants to.
I banged your mom. Boom.
This would be a Mashal situation. If you've read Mashal, you know how that series goes.
Yeah. Like, there wouldn't be the amount of like hostility, and he just would have gone for a much more manipulative tactic. Because All for One doesn't believe in much, but he believes in his twisted version of family.
Mm-hmm.
So
just like Dominic Toretto.
I don't have friends. I have family.
That
I am your father,
that fits-
Izuku Midoriya.
That fits surprisingly well, because All for One has admitted that he doesn't really consider his friends to be his friends.
Which I'm curious if Ujiko is an exception to that.
No, he is absolutely that letter with Ujiko and All for One, or was that letter or voice? No, I can't remember. But they 100% are friends.
I
Probably
find
his
it,
only friends.
yeah, I find it interesting with All for One, because like, he tries so hard. Like, he goes out of his way to be an absolutely cartoonish, soulish, empty person. But I think what this final arc is proving was, like, regardless of Shigaraki affecting him and making him angry, he's a lot more human than he wants to admit. He is fundamentally human. It's why he went after All Might instead of trying to carry out his plan. If he genuinely did not care, and if he's like above everybody, he wouldn't spare All Might a second glance. He might have just like blasted him casually and then just moved on. He wouldn't be doing any of this. Even his plan to acquire One for All, it's like, yes, it would make him a god, because it just like, it enhances all your own abilities, but at the same time, he's more focused on reclaiming his brother as possession, which is also a very kind of human drive, Instead of the pursuit of power, I think it's the pursuit of his own ego, or what?
Well, yeah, everything he has to make everything his in that regard. So yeah, that possessiveness is both very creepy, but yeah, very humanizing. And he has tons of flaws too. I mean, his character is actually a dead ringer for Bakugo, especially early Bakugo. Like, there's a lot of actual parallels between the two characters, right down to being born with an amazing quirk that they think makes them above everyone else. It's kind of why I'm thinking that All Might's not going to die here, because I think now is about the time for Bakugo to make his return.
I
At some
think
point.
after this chapter, especially with like the words from Hercules and from Stain, I was on the All Might is going to die train, but this chapter kind of made me want different. I don't want All Might to die, especially after this chapter. He needs to live, especially with Deku's I need you around to see me say I am here. I need that moment. And I feel like it would be very disheartening to get us with a vestige All Might.
No, exactly. I think so too.
I think it would hit the same mark, the same nail, but I feel like it would actually hit harder.
Much
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
Mhm.
just to see, just for the actual All Might to see it with his own eyes. Like, because up to this point, All Might has felt like very sad. Every time he sees Deku, jumping off to do his thing while All Might is stuck, where he's at, he's always felt really sad. But
You
like,
don't look back anymore.
right, but this one time, like, I want him to see Deku and just be like overwhelmed with joy for having seen the moment. Like,
That's his son.
right, like I want that so much. Um,
I'm just I'm just wondering because like whether I don't necessarily think it's next week because I think you have to go back to the start of Deku versus Shigaraki, but
and there
I,
might be other shenanigans too. Like
yeah,
he can warp things around and stuff. And there's other
Mhm.
characters that exist, like Aizawa and Kurogiri.
Yeah.
Like who
I
knows?
don't see. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Shigaraki is final boss. I don't see All for One necessarily sharing in on that. So they're gonna come to kind of blows, and one of them is gonna firmly be on top at the end. I think what's gonna happen is I've been speculating this. I think what might happen is Shigaraki might just absorb his quirk and be the dominant persona this time.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe that could happen too.
Yeah.
It's hard to
It's-
think that some Vestige World shenanigans won't happen again. I feel like once you introduce that scape, I think it kind of like has to come back.
It's there's a very ethereal, very mythic quality to it that definitely I think has to come full circle. Like, I mean, All for One especially is very in tune with that. So, man, uh this is it, man. This is really it.
So one
It
thing that I
really is.
could see is Shigaraki not even bothering to absorb AFO because he made it clear that he didn't need one for all, right? He was like, I don't need that shit. I'll fuck everything up on my own. Don't need it, don't care. And I could see him being like, nah, I learned from the last time I took power from you. I'm just gonna kill you and be done. I don't need to absorb this. And just still completely solidifying himself as final boss. No, I need to fight my demons, none of that. Because all the thing with Shigaraki is he always learns from the ways other villains try to screw him. And so if he understands the concept of enough, then instead of trying to take All for One or any of those vestiges, he's just gonna murder them, right?
Mhm.
So, which in of itself, I'm okay with because that's just another from a character progression. Because instead of it being like, oh, I don't have to have a future, it's like, in order for the people in the league that I cared about to have a future, because he's not aware that basically the entire L has been put in a pack, league has been put in a pack already. But in order for them to have a future, I need to be here, and you'll get in the way of that if I absorb you again. So I'm just going to take you out here now. And I think that also solidifies and takes away All for One strings because I think All for One has to die largely a failure. I think he has to kind of sit there and just be like, oh, I don't get to control the Shigaraki body. Shigaraki finishes All Might instead of me. This is actually just the end of my existence, no matter how much I fought against it. I am not the ultimate demon lord.
He has to, like, I feel like we're owed him dying in the most like
Pathetic way.
humiliating way possible for him. Like it just like a complete and utter failure. Because when
Like
you really look
defeated.
at when you really look at All for One, this final act, nothing he's done is really worked. Like absolutely nothing.
Like every time he even sort of succeeds, it's like a monkey paw. It's like, yep, you took New Order, and it's gone.
Yeah. Oh, you killed Bakugo. That's gonna destroy Deku. No, that doesn't really work either.
It's one of those like, no, man, you just need to get with the times. You're behind.
It's
And
part of the reason why I still hope that Mineta ball is still stuck to him and gets stuck to some rubble and just fades away, helpless, reaching out for anything.
I would
help him.
like that also in a if anyone here has seen Fullmetal Alchemist, Envy. I would love it to be very reminiscent of Envy. Instead of feeling bad, you're kind of like, thank Christ, you're gone.
Everybody just kind of looking down on him, but it's
Yes.
like, ew.
Just getting stuck to the Mineta ball. He can't move. He's currently rewinding into a fetus.
Envy went out in a really satisfying way. I'll be honest. I thought that was definitely because they were a very annoying personal enemy for basically all the main characters. So when they finally just
they all gained up on him. It was just
yeah. I mean, they just got bitched.
Envy's last day, the last stretch of episodes and moments for Envy were just very satisfying for the readers or viewers, because it's he calls me Risa when we're alone. Damn it. Really? Nope. Bop, bop, bop.
I don't know, Mustang alone was extremely cathartic.
Especially after what Envy did.
Yeah.
Be gone.
Especially because Envy's oh, let me get all big on you real quick. Show you my super scary monster. Oh my god, my eyes are burning.
God.
I think for All For One's case as well, All For One deserves that even more than Envy, considering all the shit he's done so far. Not just to Deku, but to the cast, Aoyama, to All Might, to Nana, to all the All For One users, One For All users. He deserves that ending.
Yeah, he's a mix of Envy and Father,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you've read Fullmetal Alchemist, Father is more of a plot device than anything. He does have a history with Hohenheim, but similar to All For One, he's kind of a plot device. And I will also say this: I find it kind of funny that I felt for a long time that MHA and FMA were very similar types of series. I feel like that's why I gravitate to both of them. And when you look at Father's role in this story, that's basically exactly what All For One's is he wants to acquire something very powerful and forbidden, and he kind of ends up screwing himself over for it anyway. Anyway, all this to say that you should definitely watch Fullmetal Alchemist if you have not done so.
Preach. One of the best manga and anime.
Yep.
If you like Studio Bones, that's more in their creations.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was on.
Yeah. Anakin, I've also been making my way through Air Gear.
Hey.
It's I'm not gonna say that it's Shakespeare or anything, but it's some good shit.
Where are you right now? Are you in the Grand Scale tournament?
I'm not at the tournament yet. I just finished the Kyoto arc, which I felt really gave a lot for Ringo. But I know that things kind of take a twist towards the second half of the series, but I can't lie. I'm really vibing with the crazy. It's just pure undistilled anime energy. It's just crazy.
Also, hey Kendra.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Kendra.
Hi.
Good morning, Kendra.
Good morning, everyone. How are you guys?
Oh, good.
Happy.
Happy.
Don't start fussing now that there's an extra person in the call.
Yeah.
Oh, happy baby.
How'd you feel about the chapter, Kendra?
The chapter was great.
Yes.
I loved it. I'm a big All Might fan, so whatever All Might does is great. Wasn't expecting Stain to die though.
I mean,
Rip.
he can still be alive. Just
No.
in pieces.
I don't know.
In pieces.
I don't know. It's the way it's just the way he it's kind
He
of
was
exploded
literally
like that.
he had a hole in his chest, and he
Uh-huh.
was like offering up his heart, kind of, and one final prayer. Like,
Right.
gone.
Not to mention, Stain isn't known for his. He's still, even if he's like really fast, and even if he's a superhuman, he is still not Armored All Might or Alpha One or Deku level like that.
Oh yeah, no.
Impacts. He's gone.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just really loved that moment though. It was just great.
Yeah, there's a reason Stain was best known for like sneak attacks and stuff, because he doesn't really have that durability.
Mm-hmm.
Although we didn't see the body, rule number one in fiction, you don't see the body, and it could be alive.
Right. Right.
It's the baby.
I don't think he could have survived that. I don't think he could have.
So
Well,
the thing about it is Horikoshi doesn't often, like when Shigaraki punched Gran Torino in the stomach and just kind of gave him a free colonoscopy, and then some. He didn't have quite as, we'll call it a nebulous an explosion of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like this splatter is
Something
unique.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
This series.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, because I was thinking about Torino.
He popped that man's torso like a cherry.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was pretty much. But the whole chapter was just phenomenal as always.
That was a really nice moment too. It was nice to hear Stain like giving All Might permission to to risk it to defend his own life. Especially given how he believed before that heroes should always be selfless. They should never, they should always be trying to save others. And it's like, well, in your case, you have the right to, cling to life as hard as you can. And, because All Might is everything to Stain, as he said before, going out. So it was a nice moment.
Realize that like
Stain sees All Might the way that Bakudeku fans think Deku sees Bakugo.
Stain realized that like if All Might means that much to him, then at some point All Might has to make a choice, right? Does he keep living or does he die? And if you tell somebody that they can keep living, then you have to think about what that means. It's kind of like Stain was finally becoming a little less delusional.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, you are a human. It's almost like he stopped seeing him as a god and started seeing him as a person finally. And that almost made him care more.
Yeah, and it goes well with Uraraka's whole speech too. It's just, yes, these are heroes, but they're also weak people, and so it's a really nice full circle for the character and such.
I do wish that, like, because we heard that when Stain got out of Tartarus, he like researched before he found All Might, and it's kind of a shame that we didn't get like more into his thoughts on the state of the society.
Yeah,
because it was what he wanted. The only people who were acting as heroes were true heroes, but he didn't want it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you could definitely argue that part of what led to Stain doing all this is realizing the cost of his ideology.
Yeah. Like he realized, because like for the longest time, people looked at Stain. You had two camps, right? You had the camp that thought Stain was a fantastic villain, like one of the best. And to a point, he was, to everyone, the best villain in the series. But you also have the other camp who see his ideology as 100% flawed, which it was. So Stain coming to that realization very subtly throughout like his meeting with All Might, and even before that when he was leaving Tartarus and he talked to the security man. Like it, you don't have to get it like told you, or more fleshing that out. I kind of like what we got already, but I do agree.
He did refer to Ida as Ingenium, which I think says a lot with very little.
Yes.
And to Shoto as Burn Boy.
Yeah, because Right. No, like why would he care?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he knows Shoto is Endeavor's son.
He might not.
I don't think so.
He may have found out if he got a hold of a phone and saw some news articles, but otherwise, no.
Yeah, maybe.
Because like
he
did
probably said like,
hate
oh, this is
Endeavor.
Endeavor stuff. Who cares?
He's kind of got a one-track mind himself.
This is not All Might. This is not the All Might, but he had a part of his brain thinking, okay, I acknowledge Ingenium, which is huge because he didn't believe people could change. He didn't seem to like when during their fight, like he explicitly said, no, there's no way you just pulled a 180 right now. Nah. But by now he does, and I think that's pretty neat.
Which is another W for Ida, just seeing like his growth actually, unlike what people in the community says, does matter.
Also, there's something I thought about this chapter that I think is kind of unique, which is back when Bakugo got his muffin cap built back blue, he, all for one, as he was coming, starting to do his rewind, he was like, heroes preserve, but villains violate. And while he was standing there like dick swinging in the breeze, he was talking about how heroes don't have a monopoly on the sacrifice play. And we've seen Edshot sacrifice himself. But if you think about it, we're at least 2 villain sacrifices already for a better cause or a better future. So I think it's interesting how All For One's words have come to fruition, but in the process of them doing so, it's been against the future that he desires.
This came to fruition, but not as he hoped.
Which just ties back into what Volk said earlier, which is that everything All For One does, all his plans don't work out how he intends them to.
So as a question to y'all, do you think Stain going out here was satisfying?
Yeah.
I do.
Agree.
Because I don't think Stain is a big enough like character that we need to like get a random flashback chapter and have All Might stand over his body like Stain son and all that other stuff. Like, no, he showed up, he helped All Might out, gave him like that one last push. We got that snippet of Night Eye, and it's kind of like what we're also seeing is like the people who believe in All Might represented through like Night Eye, but also the people who tried to be close to him in his relationships, and then the people who just didn't understand him. And we kind of get a representation of all three within this chapter, tying into, All Might's, like what all drives All Might forward. And it's just like all the people like of the world and all of different shades and different relations to him, he still pushed forward for all of them. And of course, next chapter will probably get some student emphasis. I think it's worth noting we got no emphasis on any students this chapter with All Might, and I think that's because we wanted to kind of focus on All Might's past influences, both towards himself and the people he influenced, so that we could kind of slowly move towards wrapping up the rest of his character, because he's not looking too good. And I think that we don't need Stain. Like, Stain is somebody who was like, damn, he's dead. But at the same time, he wasn't a big player. And he could have died back during Hosu City. And it wouldn't have changed a whole lot outside of, they just change who gives the information of, right? Like, they find the tapes themselves in the rooms of Tartarus, or they, whatever. But in this case, Stain got to kind of go out, and since his mission has been accomplished, his character arc is done. So I think this is like a really good way to just kind of like, look, the society changed how he thought he wanted it to. He's getting at this moment to say, like, you know what, I was wrong about some stuff. I misinterpreted the world a little bit. But ultimately, I got to fight next to my heroes for a brief moment. I got to be a hero in my final moments, because he did go to Hero Academy. So he wanted to at some point be that. But the rest is up to All Might and the people that All Might has entrusted. And we see that cutaway to Class 1A when he's talking to All Might anyway. So it's kind of like, even if Stain hasn't directly acknowledged all of 1A, we at least know that he sees All Might's direct students as the successors to his will, and he's kind of leaving that in their hands as well. Just like you know, so as he's passing up and offering up his heart, he's kind of just giving up it all for the future, just like All Might's kind of doing here. He's like fighting to secure the future, which is what he's always fought for. Character assassination, yeah, if you can't read. Who said that?
Oh, those two words have been uttered for weeks, from another series to this series. Isn't that fun?
I heard a lot of people were very much complaining about this chapter as previous chapters too. A lot of them found it boring or whatever.
They're boring.
Maybe because they're not really big All Might fans, and they don't really care about his character progression and things like that.
Maybe there's just nothing to criticize, so they're bored.
That's what it really comes down to, because a lot of
I
people,
like that.
Yeah.
like, especially people who say that this was character assassination, like, they can't say that the chapter was boring while simultaneously basically arguing that All Might should have just sat in the comms room and watched everything happen.
Yeah, no, it's like, are you even a fan of shonen generally? Like, I don't understand. That's like the most anti-dramatic take you can have, is like, why are they fighting? Like, I know some controversies exist, in terms of shonen and making fights happen, and I know not all of those are satisfactory. I don't see it here at all. This is fine.
Same.
I think the series very much has a grouping of readers who, this is probably one of like 5 times they've really ventured into the anime manga sphere. I'm gonna be honest. Like even popular voices, I know for a fact, do not really read a whole lot of anime or manga stuff.
No, for sure. They build their personality around like the 1 or 2 or 3 that they like, and then everything else is just blah. Which, I mean, that's being human, but it's like I don't like
I
take
think they just
individual personalities that seriously in that regard.
I think they just don't know how a lot of this works. I'm gonna be honest. Like when I see reactions to certain things, I just think it's like, are you saying that because you genuinely think that, or is this your first time encountering this aspect? Because this, like, I mean, I think MHA does certain things very much the same as other series, and then when it deviates, I'm gonna be honest, like, I want to talk about this whole discussion around like, oh, Deku never talks about being quirkless, and I'm just like, why would he talk about it? Why,
hey guys, let's sit around and talk about the absolute worst moments in my life.
yeah,
Right?
like,
No,
why would he?
and that's
talk
not
about
who he
it?
is.
Like okay, literally,
He's not Aaron,
the very first arc of this,
which is of course a good thing.
Yeah, the very first arc of this series that culminates in Deku's finally standing up to Bakugo and saying, "No, you're not gonna bully me anymore. I'm the Deku who always does his best." Because Ochako gave him encouragement, remember? That's him dealing with that for the most part and deciding to move past it to become a hero. Like, and he still kind of refers to it. And I just find it so reductive to act like, oh, well, why doesn't Deku talk about it anymore? Like, it doesn't affect him constantly, and you see this.
I do think, like, it's okay if you want more introspection, if it's something that you really want to get in the series, that's fine. But I do think it's very disheartening to see people criticize My Hero and criticize Hori as a writer because they're not getting this, when in actuality we've had everything you wanted in the first act of the series, and it's been echoed throughout the second and throughout this act.
Yeah,
but
like,
I feel like at the end of the day, these people just need to sit down, read these moments, not to say like you haven't read them, but maybe refresh yourself, because what you're searching for is there right in front of you, and it's free online.
Yeah, it's like it's the same thing as people saying like, oh well, Deku doesn't do any introspection. It's like, well, it does plenty of introspection. It's just not specifically about the quirklessness or bullying, like I think people really want out of them. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, where I basically said that like I felt like people came to MHA for kind of like a vicarious form of a therapy session, and I'm not opposed to him like directly bringing it up and talking about it, because it's like it is an essential part of his character. But I don't like the difference for me is like I don't think you need that when you see it. When you see it in action, when you see it affect him. And even recently, we got the arc that people were wanting. And it just didn't play out exactly how they were hoping, and that was Dark Deku. Because I'm going to be honest, Dark Deku is not really about hunting down a bunch of villains and Deku being a badass. It's to showcase him going down a very dangerous rabbit hole where he just disregards himself entirely in his pursuit to try and save the day. And so that arc is really about stopping Deku. And that is a direct consequence of his quirklessness in the worst moments of his life.
Yeah, I always saw Dark Deku as like the ultimate refuting of the entire soul symbol of peace concept.
Mhm. But like, what frustrates me more is that people look at like the Deku Black arc or Dark Deku, Dark or whatever, and like they want what they want, and when the series doesn't give them that, they get frustrated. And especially, I saw the tweet they referred to where they were mentioning how why does Aoyama like embody what we want from Deku more than Deku? And it's like no,
Oh yeah, I saw that tweet.
no, like for the longest time, I've been dying to see more quirkless characters. And when we actually got it in Aoyama, even though he has a quirk currently, I was happy because we got more of that side of Hero Society that we only got through Deku's eyes.
Mhm.
And I feel like people have just been taking the wrong messages from the traitor arc and taking that and trying to have a discussion that doesn't need to be discussed.
I'm sorry, just like bringing up All Might's origin, I just can't help. His origin is literally, I have nothing, so I have to help everyone who still has things. Like, and I'm just like, this man, he's like a saint, but also this is so sad. But now he literally is fighting with everything he has. Like he attained so much throughout this, while even though he lost his power itself, and it's so good, like narratively.
Mhm. Mhm.
It sings, and I love it. I can't take the character assassination attempts seriously because they really are. It's really just the quote unquote fans trying to assassinate the character. Like, it's not Horikoshi.
I think when you look at the 12th, the 13th page where All Might is crawling on the ground, and like you look at All Might there, right? And like Seth said, this isn't character assassination. This is his character. Like, this is All Might. This is Toshinori Yagi. This is the same character we met at chapter 1 that we saw in USJ, that we saw in Kamino, like this throughout the series. And I don't understand, where is it character assassination? Where is it? Because if it's the armored All Might, that's not character assassination. If it's him fighting all for one instead of being in the back cheering people on, that's character assassination right there. So what?
Yep.
What's the problem? What's good? Oh, man.
Also, I'm gonna say this. The idea that Deku should have spent a lot of time talking about being quirkless in a juncture of the story where nobody was supposed to know he was born quirkless is kind of how do I put this?
Stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but
It's
like
like-
the
Yeah.
closest we got to that was Deku's conversation with Kota, where he was talking about his struggles with being quirkless, and he was trying to get that across Dakota without spilling that he had no quirk.
Yeah,
It's
that
like-
secret hasn't come out yet, as far as I'm aware. Like everyone knows Deku has the power that all for One is after, but I don't believe it was actually revealed at any point to the public that it's passed down from All Might and
The only people
technically
who
from
know
I think
All for
are
One.
the letters that he gave Class A,
Yeah.
but I think that's it. I think
Right, except for those, like
Right,
except
but
for the
like, but-
people in the inner circle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So like it wasn't leaked to the media because actually I think Mount Lady, I think during Dark Hero was mentioned like why doesn't All for One release this or something like that, or it did come up and then it was decided that was the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah, it's Class 1A. His fellow like heroes that are like in that circle, like Seth mentioned, like Endeavor, Bestinas, Hawks, and his mother. Aside from that, the public doesn't know. And I don't think the public really needs to know unless, like Aniki mentions, it's mentioned in the documentary that's currently getting filmed, and that's Deku talking in the documentary about how I had All Might's quirk. I had One for All. It is funny how people still want the Endeavor should have reacted about One for All. What? This is a big fumble. Horikoshi, how dare you? Take away his pen. It's funny how
Okay,
that
that
criticism
is
still
Endeavor
around.
thing is that like I think that's like that logic that Endeavor should have a tantrum because One for All is passed down is in of itself kind of like that's a misinterpretation of Endeavor's character.
Yes.
Because Endeavor isn't going to use that as an excuse. Endeavor is going to be like, that power is passed on, and that's an even bigger reason why I should have been able to beat it because I had my power from birth.
Just like Bakugo.
These are
Yeah.
people who got their power later in life. So even if it has like a better out the box power output, I should still be able to bridge that gap with skill and familiarity with my technique.
I also think like Endeavor at that point, right, where One for All was revealed to him, I think it would be more powerful for Endeavor to like not like show it or have a temper tantrum to Deku, but acknowledge that it's not something to get mad at. Have that little like something like a talk between Endeavor and Deku, at least like a little like passing glare or stare.
I just never thought it was an issue. I am actually this is the first I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. I'm pretty sure it's been going on for a while, even like years before the Paranormal Liberation War, because people wanted to see Endeavor react to One for All when it's finally revealed.
Yeah, like I don't know. That's just, I guess weird things just build up within circles, I guess. Just naturally people grab onto an idea and then just like Dad for One. or to be fair, you know, Dobby being a Todoroki, that's been around since literally the beginning when we had only the slightest bits of evidence, if you could call it that. So, you know, I mean, in fairness, like, you know, mangaka do this. They have long games and stuff, but I don't know. I never even thought about that. Like, I just thought, let the drama play out. Like if you get if you get too much into your headcanons, you start getting a bit delusional and cringe.
Truth.
Delusional cringe. That's pretty that's
Like
a great way to phrase that, Seth.
Cameron mentioned that they want MHA to be about hard work beats talent. The Naruto like trend.
I mean, I don't even think Naruto ended up that way, unfortunately.
I don't think it was ever meant to be the main message of Naruto. I think that was more of a, I think this is it because Gaara versus Lee is such a big fight. That was never the message of Naruto.
I mean,
I think
respectfully to
case,
Kishimoto, he didn't have a plan for the long term. Like I mean, don't get me wrong, he had strong character work at the beginning, but Shippuden is completely off the rails. Like just completely off the rails and doubles down on things that like
Shippuden
it's
is.
fine, but it's just it's certainly not. It doesn't resonate with the beginning of
I'm gonna be
Naruto.
honest. Shippuden at large is way too long.
Extremely.
It does not need to be that long. Honestly, you could have accomplished a lot more with Naruto by condensing it and keeping it to like 500 chapters.
I mean,
it's not just fourth Shinobi World War. It's a lot of stretches where there's not really a whole lot that's happening. Like Naruto has this search party with like Hinata, other characters, and they go out and they're like searching for the Akatsuki. Okay, you want to know where that goes? Absolutely fucking nowhere. Like it's not even an arc where Naruto and Hinata get closer. They just dead ass. They're just like you just see a couple scenes of them making small talk and that's it.
see, Naruto is a really good example of how the story expands. Like people like to talk world building. The world building in Naruto is a problem because
It's not very good.
You have a big setting, right? Like this huge setting. And you have multiple nations and all that, aside from just not really exploring individual nations very well, which you don't necessarily have to do, but the way Naruto is, it's like you're kind of supposed to hand wave it. But like it's all in service of like 5 nations versus like one guy.
You get
like that's all it kind of comes down to, and it's just like it's a total waste of a setting.
Dude, Naruto
Also-
world building. I'm not even joking. Naruto world building is left to the non-canon movies.
I want to address
Yeah.
something that's in the hard work versus talent thing, which is that hard work versus talent isn't the message of Naruto. It's barely, like somebody else put it, it's barely the message of the Gaara versus Lee fight, because it's hard work cannot always overcome talent, but it is important to getting close to it.
It's a
Because-
theme, but not like a message itself.
But like the reason for this is because there are hundreds, thousands, so possibly millions of people under the height of 6 feet tall right now that want to be basketball players. Some of them are playing basketball every day, trying to find ways to get better. Of those hundreds of millions of or hundreds of thousands to millions of people who want to play basketball professionally and are under the height of 6 feet tall, maybe 1 or 2 of them will get into the league within the next year or two. It will not matter that whether or not they worked as hard as the guy that's 6'5". That has nothing to do with either of their work ethic. If they both work hard, in fact, let's look at the dunk contest. Do you know who's won the dunk contest under the height of 6 feet? Spud Webb.
Who?
He was like a 5'4" or 5'6" or something like that basketball player in the 90s who managed to win the dunk contest. It is not common to be under 6 feet tall and make it to the NBA.
I kind of wish that they had, you know how there are weight classes in wrestling? I feel like they should have height classes in basketball.
See, but that would be so painful and humiliating. Like, this is the short league.
I
We're
know. I know there's no way though. It's like, oh, you're watching the short league. It's like you can't. I get why there's not.
They got better handles. Like,
I just feel bad. Like, come on, really? It's like I am shorter of 6 feet, like barely, but I'm not 6 feet. So there you go. It doesn't matter.
but it's like, yeah, like that's the real world. And I think that to a certain degree, like when people see like hard work is more important than talent. And the thing is that like people will say like, "Oh, Naruto's about hard work beats talent," and it contradicted itself because Naruto ended up having lots of talent, and I'm like, what that really means is that Naruto wasn't an embodiment of that theme as a character because he was more than hard work. Even though like Kishimoto is like, oh, like he's the reincarnation of Ashura, and Ashura wasn't as naturally talented. Yes, but Ashura still had a ginormous fucking chakra pool. When
This is
the power system requires that you use the energy source and that you relegate it and that you train and it grows over time, and you just start out with a huge one, you have a form of a talent, and that is okay.
I do actually like how MHA does handle it because like Deku knows fully well that he's blessed and that fuels him to work hard. Like it's that like yes, hard work and talent are obviously important, but like when you're blessed with something, it's like it becomes your responsibility to hone that and make it the best it can be. So I actually like how Horikoshi threaded that needle and fed the not the talent, but he thread the blessing, the gift into his drive to work hard. I think that's actually a really good thread of that needle.
On this topic, like the other day I watched the Dragon Ball movie Resurrection F for the first time, and it kind of plays into that because like Frieza was always naturally talented and powerful, but he never actually like worked hard to try to improve, and until like Goku really made him, so it kind of fits into that in a way.
Yeah, there are things that I remember regarding Stain. There are things that I would have liked him to be able to react to or comment on here or there. But I also think he's a character that's been so out of the loop for so long that he's not. He is ultimately a side character. So I real as far as side characters go, I think this is a really good send off for him, and it's still very focused on his primary motivations. I also think he is something of a madman, so I really don't know how meaningful his commentary would be. Since he's already resorting to killing anyway, he might not even care about the current state of society so much. So,
Yeah.
no, this was a good send off for the character in my view.
Speaking of send-offs, I know Kendra is waiting to vent about something.
Oh dear.
Am I? I honestly don't even want to talk about it for real, for real.
Well,
So
Because
does
I'm
Gojo
still-
actually?
I'm still
Well,
in denial.
Whoa, wait. Let's just not, in case there's spoilers.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
we have to be nice about how
Yeah.
it's Jover.
Yeah,
Ah.
even though the chapter was trash, we gotta be kind to everyone else who haven't read it yet.
So is a
Right.
student's name like actually mentioned throughout it in a way that's regretful or endearing or something like or
No.
oh my gosh.
No. That's what's making me also upset too.
Oh my
so
gosh.
yeah,
I could
Technically, yes, but it was
Technically,
kind of
yes,
a
but no.
passing mention, which honestly, Kendra, it pissed me off too.
God. Let me just say this. Horikoshi would never hurt me like this.
he would hurt you in
So-
other ways that are possibly worse, but
No, he's not like this.
oh
He
well,
would
yeah.
make it at least satisfying.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
me, I just
He
want
would
you to
not hurt
know,
me like this.
in
Okay,
case
yeah.
you didn't know, Kendra's black.
Yes. Yes.
What?
Because it said
Ain't no
Gojo
way.
was white women's Goku, so I just wanted to be clear.
White women's what?
Goku.
what?
Wait, what?
I don't understand, but okay.
What
I kind of
happened?
like that. That's fire.
It all clicks. Oh my
What?
god.
I'm confused. I'm sorry, Anki. What did you say?
Somebody in the chat said Gojo really is white women's Goku.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I'm
okay. I
black.
understand now, but that like took a second. So like for I'm assuming for men, Goku is I don't know, but never mind.
Goku is just him.
Yes.
Yeah, Goku is
Oh,
literally just him.
okay. So Lee wasn't talking about you specifically, Kendra.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay.
No, but yeah,
Multiple things can be true.
yeah, but yeah, I pretty much vented over the last couple of 4 days. I'm still not, my head is still not there. I still kind of like trying to process it even after reading the chapter. And I'm just not having it. I don't I can't explain it well.
The upside for me is that like there's a lot of people that are like, I don't know about this series. I'm starting to have like a lot of mixed feelings lately, and I'm like, man, I've been feeling this since the most popular arc in this series. That I was
What's funny is like what's funny is to not spoil it for people. Like there are people in Chile who are really upset. There are people selling volumes. It is not a good chapter. Something I do like about the chapter is that if you look in the background with the Rico kind of panel, you can see a specific person, which is very funny.
Yeah. I kind of been feeling that way since Shibuya too, Anki, but I just didn't say nothing about it.
Because people like go to war if you say like, I wasn't as
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's kind of the way I feel about MVA. Honestly, I was like, I mean, I didn't hate it. It was good. I didn't think it was like mind blowing the way a lot of people do, but I still enjoyed it overall.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely have MVA in a higher regard.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think the thing that makes MVA special for a lot of people is like
it was villain focused.
Yeah, it's very rare when you get stories that'll actually just be like, so this is my main character. Now fuck him. It's like, why? Because fuck him. That's why. Like,
Yeah.
and that's just it. And I think for a lot of people, it came down to what you saw happening and how like you interpreted the story's direction. So for me, MVA was like, I'm finally getting what I predicted in the way, like the villain tournament arc that I expected, where it's like a villain battle royale, villain off. And like I was excited for that because I remember I was like back when I used to be in Brago's Discord a lot. Which is actually where I met Squid in Brago's Discord. And I was like, no, MHA is gonna have a villain arc, dude. It's gonna be centered on the villains. The way they're written is just gonna people like, nah. And like I am a One Piece enjoyer, but the thing is that Oda would never leave Luffy out of the manga for like 6 months. Like that just would not happen. You would
That's the reason why we didn't get more out of Reverie.
Oh boy.
Like that was
it's not gonna happen.
It was a super interesting arc, and we were getting so many great updates on the state of the world, and then nope, we gotta do Wano first.
Little baby.
Yep.
And not even that. Like, I would much rather have had like a third of the Wano screen time sacrificed for Reverie instead. But I get it. He's not gonna go away from Luffy for that long. So
yeah, here's a question. In Hunter x Hunter, the York New City arc, do you consider that a Phantom Troop arc or no?
It's a classic arc.
Gon and Kurapika are still heavily centered in the York New City arc. I like York New more than I like Chimera Ant arc, but that's also not supposed to be said.
Because I don't like when I was again, like I mostly watched the 2011 anime for Hunter x Hunter, and I saw that more as I saw Phantom Troop more as the focus of the arc than Kurapika or Gon and Killua.
going to Kurapika. So that's the other thing too, is that like there are small phantom trope centered moments, but even those stretches are like it's hard to explain when it's like a weekly manga experience versus how a weekly anime adaptation handles things versus how do I put it?
Experiencing in the binge, because that's
Yeah, like there's so many different like little factors to that. But the thing with the because we did have the random Meteor City Chimera Ant stuff,
Thank
but
God.
that's kind of like a pocket arc within an arc.
yeah.
And so it's weird because it's like this is still centered on characters and things tied to
Yeah, I'll be sure to do that.
the overarching Chimera Ant arc. Whereas like this was like a pocket that while it had ramifications on the larger world, you just weren't looking at any of like the outside world. It was like being on a little island of villain in the middle of the mountains. And so, and then of course, just in general, if you were somebody who was excited to see Shigaraki grow and learn more about the villains, and you know, we got Twice's backstory fleshed out, we got Toga's backstory fleshed out, we got Shigaraki's backstory fleshed out. So we kind of got like the big three, or like three of the big players in the League of Villains getting refined backstories, which also gave us like further tips, like, okay, like there's got to be more to Dottie, like we're not seeing anything of it. And of course, then NBA builds into like the PLW arc, which is still to me one of the best arcs in the series, even though I'll have the controversial opinion of possibly thinking the final arc was the best arc if this keeps going. We'll just see. We'll just see. Because most of the hatred for this arc that people have, I just don't feel.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
So
You mean for the current arc in MHA?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I also don't feel it either. I don't understand the mixed reactions for it, but whatever.
It's like with All Might being, and I know some people just like, for example, I know like Kendra and Seth, I know that you would really rather All Might end up in a wheelchair than a coffin after this exchange.
Yes.
But for me, like, can he end up in a wheelchair? Sure. But genuinely, I think the better ending is him in a coffin. Because and I've seen some people say that it contradicts the whole fighting fate and changing the future. But the thing that I've always said, and it's probably like the 50th time I've said it on stream, is like looking at the future for Eri is different than like more different than any other character, just off the fact that rewind is a thing. They're very genius. And in the case of All Might, the way you would fight that future is to not fight. It was like there are conditions to that future, right? Like if you continue fighting, if you continue trying to be a hero, you will die a gruesome death to an extremely powerful villain. So as long as All Might didn't fight, he was safe from that future. But if he chooses to fight, he's meeting the conditions. And so I'm like, well, if All Might adheres to the conditions, and we know that the fight between All Might and All For One that had him damaged was 5 years before he met Deku, and the prediction was for roughly 5 years or so into the future, then we know that we're heading towards about like 6 years, which with him taking that gap year. And if the death that Night Eye saw was supposed to be at Kamino, he wouldn't have still had those reservations. So, which is, I think, is a small detail that doesn't really get discussed a lot, which is that if Night Eye had seen a future where All Might died at Kamino, post Camino, he would have hit up All Might and told him, like, hey, you beat the future I saw. But that never happened. So yeah, we have to be, that can't have been what he saw as the future, where All Might dies. So where do we place it then? Is it here? Is it with Baby for one? Young for one? Is it Shigaraki? Because I can understand him not being able to recognize Young for one. I can understand him not recognizing Shigaraki because up until that point in the story, the heroes hadn't seen Shigaraki without a mask. So, which obviously, if you guys feel like you have a solid line of thinking to push me in another direction, I'm all for it. It's just, I just don't see our boy making it. I feel like he did the one thing he was not supposed to do if he didn't want to get put in the pack.
I like the ambiguity kind of it. Like I do honestly think either way is a thing, but for me, I just think the anticipation itself is fun. So I'm pretty sure All Might will live, to be honest, at this point. Like I feel like this chapter almost confirmed it to me.
Mhm.
But like at the same time, I recognize that, well, for one, I'm not the author. And if he still intends to write his death, he very well can. Like it's Horikoshi's pen, and he is very adept at using it, contrary to what Twitter believes. So yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to it either way. My bet's he lives, but fully respect people who don't see that either. Like it's certainly not looking good for him.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Seth too. It's more of for me, it's more of the like subverting the mentor has to die type of trope thing that I got tired of. So I just wanted to see him be able to make it and see Deku become the hero that he said he was going to be. That's pretty much how my thought process about it goes. But if he does die, I'm sure that Horikoshi would give a most satisfying end for him, because for a while I was accepting that he would die too, but these last couple of chapters just been proven like, yeah, he's gonna make
It's
it after
making you
this.
ingest the hopium.
Yeah, you think it's a hopium? But no,
Maybe.
seriously, it
Seems
really
right
is
to the
good though.
veins.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe the despair just loops back into hope.
Yeah, literally. That's it for me too.
But the thing is what's really interesting to me is that the characters are like, I know it's corny, but like literally feels like they're fighting fate. Like whether it's the
Yeah.
villains with like Toga
Yeah.
and Dabi, who they are determined to see it their way, right? Like
Mhm.
it's all very engaging. Like they're fighting with the themes themselves.
Mhm.
And I guess that's kind of a reason why I see people maybe dying on the hill that, certain themes are being betrayed or whatever. But I don't see it that way. I feel like it's the characters living and engaging with the themes themselves that makes MHA very interesting story to follow. So, there's a reason why I think Bakugo is going to save the day here. He is a character that exists as well. And I think just the way all these arcs come together, MHA is more than the sum of its parts, is what I mean to say. Like it's like how Endeavor was ready to die fighting Dabi, but then his family showed up and said no. Like multiple things were at play there. So that's how I feel with All Might right now too.
I get it. That makes sense because, like I said, I've always said Horikoshi keeps his characters in character for better or worse. So whether you like the moment or not, if it's in the character's personality, it's going down that way. And I think that's part of what leads me towards All Might ending. Is because like I feel like he would barely register it as an ending for real. Like for him, it's like, well, this was just my last duty as a hero. One more time, punching in and punching out on the time card. And I do think Bakugo needs a role. I do think Bakugo should do something. I believe there's a reason we haven't seen people at UA for a minute because, like I've said before, I think Bakugo ends up with like a Tony Stark heart. I don't think he just has his regular organic heart moving forward. Like I just don't see that being the direction his revival is taking. Like I don't just see it.
Oh, Momo is there. Maybe.
Yeah.
Even before,
That's not.
even
Maybe.
before, like
Mm.
his new quirk upgrade was actually overtaxing his heart. So I think he'd need an upgrade of some sort to be able to withstand that. So
That would be really metal, actually. Holy shit.
Because
an Iron Might just happened.
yeah.
You know? Like,
And so
Arc reactor. That was going.
Yes.
yeah, I'm fully
Wow.
I've been expecting the arc reactor Bakugo heart since it got destroyed.
proof
Because-
Katsuki Bakugo has a heart.
Yeah. And it circles back to like what I said, which is it's super corny, but it's corny in the way that I love, which is that like Edshot sacrificing himself, a hero like stitching himself into somebody's heart so that they can live and doing all that, and then giving him like that arc reactor. It's like he has a new heart, like the Bakugo from the beginning of the series, who told Deku to jump off a building to hopefully get a quirk in the next life, isn't there anymore. This is a new Bakugo with a true heart of a hero. And like if it's got to be an artificial heart, so be it. But it's one made from heroism all the way like through and through. And so I'm like, go ahead, give Bakugo that fucking Robo heart. You've had him stand like Iron Man in your Avengers crossover and stuff like that. So let's see it happen.
yeah, no, and again, like Bakugo's character arc is in direct contrast to All for One's core personality, which was, of
Yep.
course, Bakugo's old personality. So it's
Yep.
I think there are a lot of things lined up that lets All Might live. I'm not sure of the execution.
Right.
Like the thing is like right before this, it's so weird because like All Might having a vestige in my mind is like the perfect fallback. It's like, okay, even if he dies, he'll still be there. Okay, so All Might can die. All Might probably will die. And that's how I was going into the fight. Completely different spot now somehow, where I'm like, nope, All Might is living. It's a wild ride, honestly, with MHA. So I've been enjoying it thoroughly.
So, and to answer the question for Tyler, because he asked, would you rather Bakugo live and All Might die, or All Might live but Bakugo die? I think I and All Might would prefer Bakugo live and All Might die. And the reason why I say that is because All Might sees it as his duty, and he's emphasized his age during this conflict, right? Like he emphasized, I'm post prime, I'm past my 50s.
Yeah.
There's a higher ceiling of potential, and it even ties in with one of the chapters recently in One Piece, where Garp was like, "There's room for two people on a boat. And you're on a stranded island with a baby and an old person. Who do you save?" And one of the characters is like, "Well, I put the two citizens on the boat," and then he's like, "Wrong. You, as a Navy recruit, and the baby are the ones who leave. That old man is." Lived a lot of his life, but you have more potential to alter the future and make it a better place. You save yourself and the young person. And to a certain degree, I think that if the series is really going to fight for the future, and that's really what some of these characters are gunning for, then it only makes sense for Bakugo to live. And also, if I'm honest, and I've said it before, I thought Bakugo's death was kind of ass. So in turn, I feel like if Bakugo comes back, and here's the thing is that even the people here who say, we're team All Might live in, would this death not be better than the one that Bakugo's would have been?
Depending
writing
on the
wise,
execution,
like-
it would hit better.
Even the final battle itself is more satisfying. Because it's kind of like Bakugo dying in a situation where he's not even, as weird as this is going to sound, like the centerpiece of the conflict. Because, like, he's working with, Sun Eater, he's working with Genius, you got all this other stuff going on. And, like, yeah, he gets to, like, upstage them all with his big howitzer or whatever. But
he does get jobbed.
But like, yeah, like it's just like a hard job death. And that's And like, if I'm honest, the idea of Bakugo like dying, dropping the card, oh, that's so sad. But it's like Bakugo not getting the signature on his All Might card because he died and just didn't get to ask, to me, just isn't as sad as him having that opportunity for over a year, not asking, and then his mentor dying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, there's just certain things that are like more poignant the other way than with Bakugo dying, and like Bakugo just, for me, it was kind of like, it felt like Bakugo's death still feels like to me like it would have been like an edgelord death. Like, I want the series to have some extra depth in it, so let me kill Bakugo off real quick. Like, that's still the feeling I get when I think about that death.
I mean, I remember up until like during that stretch of chapters where like Bakugo was fighting a shigaraki and then his heart got pierced through and his heart exploded because of explosions. Like, people were praising the step because I told you Hori can kill off this characters. Like, it does come across as we told you so. Like, Hori can kill. Like, this is the edgy arc that we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was strapped in for that moment, like just on the edge of my seat. So like I could absolutely see it happening, but like when you take a step back at like just all the themes and all the years that's been spent building up Bakugo's character, it really is something of a waste to just kill him to job like to the final boss. Maybe if there was an MHA part 2 in the works, like there you could have some kind of angst about it. But honestly, that would just take the series in a way that's pretty a significant departure from how it starts. Like there's a reason I've been one part merchant, because I think MHA as a story is best when it is self-contained and like where everything that within the series is taken into account and built upon, as opposed to like dragged out for the sake of drama. Like I really don't want to see that, even though I believe in Horikoshi's writing style and everything. I just feel like that's too significant of a departure. Maybe it could have worked, but I actually do like his revival or a lot better now, as opposed to like fresh off when it happened. I think my only actual complaint is that Ed Shot did not need to be an extra to the audience. I like that he's a total extra to Bakugo, that Bakugo has no interactions with him whatsoever. I think that's cool that all the extras are pulling together to defeat All for One. I think that's again why I'm rooting for Bakugo to take the spot here to finish AFO up. But like, because that is the despicable end for All for One, to be finished off by a bunch of side characters, quote unquote, as the main characters duke it out, at least in my mind. But
no, I agree.
No,
that's why I was hoping he
that.
would get rewound before he even got there. Like, to me, the most painful death for All for One, obviously this was before the Iron Might thing was happening, but would have been him dying to like Tokoyami and all them and actually getting delayed long enough. That would have been insane. But I'm okay with that battlefield losing because it kind of emphasizes the level that All for One and by extension Shigaraki and Deku are supposed to be fighting at. They're supposed to be so far above. So I'm fine with that. You know, that hodgepodge team could not keep up. Plus, they didn't get to keep Endeavor. And even if they would have kept Endeavor, he wouldn't have been enough anymore, especially because he'd already taken substantial amounts of damage. Cool. We got the Endeavor W against All for One. He technically killed the guy. We'll take it. And All for One does, to a certain degree, I think it's even funny because if you think about it, even if All for One does get on that battlefield, without realizing it, currently, All for One is jobbing. Because if you think about it, when Shigaraki got injected with that scorpion poison, his body was like, bleh. I made a mouth to throw it up. I can keep fighting. When All for One gets injected with Mina's acid, he actually starts falling to pieces. And like he manages to like bounce back. So it's like, even in these subtle ways, like when when Shigaraki got hit with Haru's big energy blast, or with Sun Eater's infinite stack cannon, think about his reaction compared to the replicated I cannot stop twinkling laser.
Yeah, no, All for One doesn't have hyper regen. He's only being restored by rewind.
Yeah.
So yeah, like no, he's actually a really good villain for jobbing, really, actually. Well, I think that's the irony of all final bosses, because they have to be big enough for all the characters to get moments, but so big that they can't like finish the job.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say All for One is like the raid boss, and Shigaraki is like the final story boss, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, they're both kind of that, but like All for One definitely has more of a body count just because of the nature of the fight. So yeah, I guess calling him the raid boss actually does, make the most sense here.
I think in this war he has more of a body count, but I think overall Shigaraki has done a large amount of devastation.
Shigaraki is easily more powerful between the two. I mean, like, no question. I think like just he is a massive tank.
They didn't specify a number, but he killed a lot of people during in Kyoto, Paranormal Liberation War. Jakku.
Oh yeah,
A lot of people there. Yeah. Whereas with All for One, like I feel like again he's too kind of self-absorbed to really, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
It's not really a competition, but I mean, between the two of them, like in terms of raw power, I think like, yeah, people are right to say that I don't think Bakugo can do much against Shigaraki. Against All for One, like making All for One eat clustered explosions, he would definitely feel that. He would be forced to regen with the with rewind, and that actually would make for a fun fight.
Honestly, like I'm just wondering, as like, yes, he can make it there, but he can also like, it can also be where rewind makes like, because eventually rewind is just going to kick into high gear and he's going to vanish entirely. So it's like, it's already just, it keeps intensifying. It keeps rewinding him.
The thing is that I feel like we've gotten Planet Namek references and whatnot this arc, and it kind of feels like we get a moment of Bakugo just kind of bombarding Rewind for One, just like you would see like when the DBZ characters bombard people with key blasts. So it's one of those things where it almost seems inevitable that Bakugo has to play a role, and whether it's Shigaraki or All for One, which I do agree that it makes more sense that it's All for One. Mm-hmm. But it's just hard for me to imagine a world where Shigaraki doesn't finish off All for One himself.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious to see, and we got the battlefield potentially being reset anyway with the Kurogiri still around. So depending on how that works out, there's just a lot of potential for, or even if we get some high end or no moves that are left over that have made it through some of their battles, there's a lot of like margins for things to kind of get shaken up in the last moment. So kind of excited to see what we get.
I do like the idea that people are proposing. Like the reason why Bakugo should be the one to finish off All for One isn't that like the whole Bakugo never had like a win versus a main villain. It was his whole strife during the second act where he felt like he was the one who ended All Might, and he still feels that way. So I like the idea of Bakugo being the one to just completely eviscerate All for One, because it's kind of his revenge, right? Because he never really got the chance to have that against Shigaraki twice, because number one, he's not as strong, and number two, it wasn't Bakugo's narratively, it wasn't Bakugo's win. So All for One would be the best candidate for that. But I also like the idea that he just, he doesn't get to go up to Shigaraki and have that chat and be like, I'm here now, Padawan. Nah, he just rewinds into nothing, or Shigaraki kills him.
Also, I will say that we do have, so like power scaling is, it can be really, really dorky, but
it can be fun.
We got the power scaling necessary to prove that Bakugo should be able to damage All for One. Because when he howitzered Shigaraki, while the region was suppressed, he was, like you could tell by the way it was drawn, he was blinded in one of his eyes, and he lost the hair and all that other stuff. So he was taking real damage from the big explosions that Bakugo was putting out. So we know that he could actually damage somebody on that level. And All for One is pretty much established to be less durable than Shigaraki. So at that point, because the Shigaraki who tanked the laser from the Sun Eater did not have Hyper Regen active. So we've seen this one already take damage. So Howitzer scales above Sun Eater's laser. So if this current All for One gets hit with a Howitzer,
it's Jover.
Yeah.
It's Bakugo over, I guess.
Bakugo over.
Yeah.
Nah, we Baku back.
Yes, sir.
Baku
No
back.
longer Bakugan.
Baku over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the last page, and timeline wise, I think we still see Gentle supporting UA as it's falling, but it's also, you see some figure, like All for One is looking at a figure like in the center of the page, it looks like, which is probably Deku and Shigaraki fighting. So
it kind of looks like when they were together, when they were like that one panel of them, like, or the two panels of them like holding on to each other.
Yeah, I feel like it's something, it's that. Well, either way, I think they're locked in combat. So I think that's the timeline we're at.
Do you mean the final page of this chapter?
Yeah, the final page of this chapter.
No, that's all my.
Oh, is that on? Oh, okay. You know what? Actually, you're probably right. Hold on. Yeah, because I think you're right, because Deku and Shigaraki, when they are locked in combat, are like, you can see UA much closer. So yeah, I think you're right. It looks like I don't know. It's hard to see.
They're directly beneath UA, and you would see a lot of like smoke and stuff if it was them.
I mean, technically, we did see smoke and stuff in this chapter in the second file page, right behind All Might was.
Oh, you're right.
Page,
that would have been Deku Shigaraki.
You're right. You're right. So
you know what? Look, yeah, that's them. You see it. You see it. Okay, yeah, the angle looks right.
Yeah.
It's just that All Might got blasted even closer to UA.
Yeah. So All Might is like in front of you. All Might is still between Deku and Shigaraki
Yes.
and All for One right now. So
Okay.
yeah, and the perspective looks right too. Like you see the
Mhm.
page with All Might and the UA in the background, and then you see All for One looking at UA. So it that does look right.
Yeah, you can tell he's closer because there's like a little increased detail on the UA, which. So I guess the question really is that are we gonna work to UA, close out whatever's going on with All Might, and then switch battlefields again, or are we gonna switch battlefields
We
again?
have to see Aizawa, Mike, and Kurogiri soon. So I assume in 2 chapters we get to see them.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm like, we gotta see that stuff. So there's as much as I like this battlefield, I maybe want one more chapter here. Because I'm not anti-cliffhanger.
It's a
But
staple of the genre.
So as far as I'm concerned, go ahead, hit us with a cliffhanger after you show either them getting to the battlefield where the next chapter of their story is taking place, or just go ahead and move ahead now. But either way, I'm just kind of expecting us to get a bit more out of the other stuff before we get there. Because like once we get to the Deku, I kind of don't know how I feel about us having such a heavy thing and then switching back over to
yeah.
a lesser battlefield, right? Like
I mean, we technically, I wouldn't say it's the same, but we had that with Daiyama where Hori managed to successfully like add that to the All for One and All Might battlefields. Like you could still do it, but it would have to be small, right? It would have to be a quick change and then back again.
Within the same chapter. Yeah.
And then a bit at the beginning of the chapter following that. But I would like to see, because to me, I feel like the Kurogiri and Aizawa and Mike, they would have to be successful and then have that moment where the portals do open and Kurogiri comes back and we get the whole bring everyone together type. But I would still like to see what happens there. So no, I have faith that Hori's gonna manage to do it right and not have a jarring. But it is interesting to think about.
Yeah, I think the last page is something of a red herring at the moment because like it for I mean because that is the thing. Horikoshi does do cliffhangers and misdirection, which is fine. I feel like it's actually perfect, almost perfect for him to be in range of UA, but All Might still manages to riz All for One's attention. I can still see that happening. But
All Might
I'm not sure.
rizzes All for One.
I mean, who doesn't get rizzed by All Might, honestly?
You're right. That
That's
dazzling
so true.
smile.
He's just him. Like, oh my gosh, like that page, the second to last page is so good. Like
The
I'm just
smile.
staring. Yeah, I know. I can't look away. I think I'm in love. No, it's so awesome. So I can still see All for One sticking around try to finish All Might off before being cut off somehow. But we'll see, because All for One is also the type to just show up and say, "Yo, I'm here. Look at this All Might that I picked up along the way."
Yeah, I found him on the side of the road.
I brought you a present. You know.
hey, you want to see
You're
a
my
dead
friend
body?
now.
Did you guys already talk about if it's possible if Horikoshi kind of does a flashback of showing us the whole fight with Shiggy and Deku? Since they're, fighting now, we haven't seen everything that they were doing as they were fighting and stuff.
I kind of expect us to get a bit of a flashback, mostly because we've established now in this arc that we'll do it, because weren't they earlier like this was like 20 minutes ago or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the timeline has been like every battlefield's been like a different point in the timeline.
It
Like,
is
to the point that I hope the anime streamlines it a little bit.
It
All
is
this-
hard to have so many battlefields and try to balance it. So you have to do, you have to go back in time, or you have to go forward in time. It's
All
really
my-
hard to keep it chronologically.
And you can't reasonably put each event after the other because it's like, look, these people wait to do something. Like, no, that's
Yeah.
dumb.
It's like the Family Guy bit where it's like, oh, what happens when the screen goes black? What
Like-
happens? Do we just pause or?
I like how Family Guy occasionally posits itself as a TV show within the TV show, but only
Yes.
like once every like 40 episodes or some shit. Hey, little baby, you like your microphone? Yeah. All right,
I just want to see the fight between Deku and Shigaraki. If Hori
I'm
doesn't
dying
give it
for
to
it.
me, if you don't give it to me, Hori, even though I was, you're gonna be in big trouble.
I just don't
looking-
see him
Ricky,
not
when I
doing
catch
that.
you,
I'm looking
Kendrick,
at
I
it
just
right
don't see
here.
him doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing this, and it's just I wonder where this specific scene between All Might and All for One is in the timeline, because like if this is before La Brava does her program to float UA, that means that Deku and Shigaraki like just left UA probably, while All Might is holding off All for One. But I'm not sure that that's like the case at all, because I'm trying to think that because what happened since because I think Bakugo dying and All for One regenerating happens simultaneously. They're presented to us within the same chapter somewhat. Like we get scenes but across moments, but like that. So I feel like those are relatively simultaneous. Bakugo's quote unquote death and All for One's quote unquote revival. So that would mean All for One had his big fight with everyone at Gunga. I don't know how long that would take actually, but I feel like that certainly took a while. And then they
especially if Makia had time to arrive.
and this is before Deku showed up back at UA as well. So like I'm trying to piece together the timeline of how long it took Deku to get back to UA, while All for One is also trying to get to UA. Like technically All for One and Deku are quote unquote racing each other to get to UA. Deku wins the race, but like I'm not sure how far behind All for One is.
Annika, didn't you do the maths on like how fast Deku went and like the duration of time? Since you let, I'm pretty sure I remember that.
I did do a calculation for it at one point because of, I think they said it had only been 5 minutes or something like that at one point. So then it was like, okay, well then how long would it have been taking? And then it was like, well, they said he was 200 kilometers away, which means he would have been traveling like 40 kilometers. But there's also the variable that comes into the fact that he like ended up doing like the plane hop thing, which could have accelerated it, could have slowed him down for a bit. And we know that he stopped to talk. So like there is a bit of how long it took to do the tussle. But we also have the phone game that came out where you were supposed to make it from SeaWorld to UA in 2 minutes. And as you were traveling there, different events happened. So like the closer you got, it's like Bakugo's injury shows up, I think like 90 seconds into the game or something like that. So you're basically just supposed to like play this game. It's like you're supposed to be like clicking and like getting these power-ups. Like you get like bento boxes mid-flight. I don't know if it's still on Horikoshi's page or not, but there was like this like tap phone game where you were playing the flight. So if you just treat it as that phone game as being the canon timeline, then 2 minutes for 200 kilometers is, like 100 kilometers per minute. That's let me real quick translate this just because I'm lazy.
That game frustrated me. I tried to get a good time.
I never played it. Shoot,
I was terrible at it.
It was
my phone's cracked, so whenever I tried to like press my screen, it would like feck up, and I hated it.
But yeah, it's difficult to play. So I do think we need some kind of not like like you said, we do need to take some kind of breather and take stock of what the timeline is right now.
It was 3,720 miles an hour.
Jeez.
I would like for us to get like an ultra impact or something along that lines of like after the series ends, where Hori does give us like the timeline and like kind of you know how on YouTube there'll be like channels who dedicate themselves to show stuff in wars or in arcs that happened in real time. So like there's one for Chimera Ant where they kind of moved all the clips to the appropriate speed that they should be at in terms of like duration, because these characters be moving at like in 1 second they go from point A to point B, which is like down the hall. So I'd be interested to see something like that from Hori.
Which he does like to do that kind of stuff, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Also, Kendra, I need you to check your inbox.
I saw you, evil man. You. How could you do that to me? How could you do that?
I thought it was funny,
No.
especially because that's a scene
No.
that I feel like is misunderstood in Attack on Titan anyway.
True.
Because it destroyed people's meme-based perceptions.
Are we
That's
talking
true.
about of Eren?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that one page where he,
Yeah.
you know, he's sitting on the floor?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's an edit of that, but with Gojo.
For Gojo, send that to me. I want to see it.
And
Even
whoever
I
created
think
it,
that's even
I-
I think that's foul. Oh my
that's
Listen, I love
Listen.
Eren, but it's really hard to defend that panel.
I think that
I
panel
don't
was
understand how
I
cathartic that
unironically
page
like
is.
that.
I like the panel. I like the panel. It's just hard to defend it when people are like, "You're just agenda."
No, like you don't understand how cathartic that page is for me. And I'm sorry to people who like Attack on Titan, because you know what? Attack on Titan is very likable. So I total respect if you like it. I dislike Eren very much. In terms just I don't like his effect on other characters. I think he makes other characters look bad a lot when you like take a step back. Just and this happens like since the beginning. I think he's a whiner, and I think all of that was perfectly showcased in those infamous pages. And I am sad if the anime alters those, because you're messing with peak garbage. Like,
But that's the point. He's always been that way, though, and
Yes,
people have
exactly.
forgotten that.
Exactly. Isayama was happy to draw him that way because that is who Eren is, and people were just memeing too hard about how raw he is.
Yeah.
They were like,
I loved all of it, actually.
chattering. This is
They're
my
yapping.
chat. It's like, dude, shut up. Like,
I can't
But
wait
no,
to see it later this year. Isn't it next month?
I think
Yeah.
it's
Is it this
isn't
month?
it? It's next month, isn't it?
Next month is Undead Unluck. I know that much.
Yeah, of course.
Is
Let me see.
it the next month or November? I believe.
I can't. I miss it.
Yeah, a lot of people is gonna be very surprised, I guess. But Eren has always been that way, along with the raw parts or whatever. But people just didn't interpret it wrong, I guess. I don't know.
And the
Look.
thing is, I like that he's being vulnerable with his best friend.
Yes, I also
and,
love that.
And love
Mhm.
love is kind of selfish and cringe like that, where it's like,
Yes.
what do you mean? I love her. I don't want her to move on. Like that's
Yep.
not a bad moment to me. But
It's
I
not a
know
bad
it
moment to me either.
but I know it pisses people off because
Yep.
they had this over the top reading of the character, and I'm like,
Yep.
So
But the thing is, right? Like up until that point, people were following to not like spoil for people. They were following, like everyone knows, Eren goes on a different path. And it's a side of Eren that people went, this is Eren now. This is my Ross, my goat. This is the coolest man ever. Like your protagonist could never. And then when Eren shows his true colors, who he really is on the inside, when he actually gets to be himself.
Yep.
People
I
forget that.
just saw that image. God damn it.
It's funny.
Oh,
I'm
you
not as
just-
strong as him. We died to disease or old age.
I don't like that. He wasn't
Sad.
fucking whining about it.
Very sad.
Or Gesho.
Extremely sad.
But
Yeah.
look, with Aaron, the thing that blew my mind is that if you actually bought the volumes during the rumbling part, do you know what one of the end tags in the volume is?
He'll destroy the world, right?
He will
Or-
stomp the world for
Yeah.
his friends.
I remember you
Right.
said that in a VC. I was like, oh my god, that was true. I didn't notice that.
So it's like, bro, they straight up told you this was about his friends. So like anything else that you thought that didn't include him caring about the people he's cared about the entire series.
But it's like the characters tell you this as well. Like throughout, like when is it Armin like comes to realization, and he tells Mikasa and he tells the whole group while they're going up
Yep.
the stairs.
Yep.
And it's like he's spoon feeding you Aaron's intentions. Like
Yep.
it should have been obvious at the table where he beat the fuck out of them.
Yep.
But you aren't listening because you are just obsessed with this version of Aaron that's cool and he's like guts and all that. No. And what makes him even worse is when Deku at the end of 305, 306, you're like, oh my god, Deku's going Aaron's past. This is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you make me
It's
mad.
It's always the edginess and stuff that people love instead of characters with actual emotion who can allow themselves to be vulnerable and things like that.
Well, that's why it's Kagura time.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I need to read the latest.
When you
Okay.
conquer
I
a
still haven't
box all
read it.
over the place, I went, this is fire.
I
Okay,
I
haven't
need
read
to-
it yet.
It's a new chapter out.
I'll be completely honest. I read Kakurabachi chapter
Is it
2
good?
before hopping on. It was actually pretty decent. I'm not gonna lie.
It's clearly peak fiction. Why do you think people have been constantly discussing it and Kagura botching their pants over it?
You know what's funny? Have you seen the Japanese like reaction to like how
No.
popular?
Oh, they were so confused.
They were like, "What's happening? Is it real?" They were like,
No, they
they're theorizing about. It. They were like,
Oh
maybe it's
my
because of
God.
the swords. Like, what's
They were
going
like-
on?
They were like, the swordsmen are really popular overseas, so I guess it makes sense.
Did you see? Did you see the?
So bad.
It's like
I feel so
interview.
bad for the author.
Yeah,
if
there was
he
an
gets
interview with the
catfished like this.
author.
That interview isn't real.
Is it not
Yeah,
real?
No,
Okay,
it's not
okay.
real. Yeah.
No, but
I
I still,
would've
I
felt
still
so
feel
bad.
bad. Like Twitter's basically catfishing the author, and I just feel so bad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
like,
probably
I-
are
okay,
saying now.
he was
Yeah,
memed to success, quote unquote, before like the chapter officially dropped. Like,
Did you guys
That's
hear
crazy.
what I said at the start of this stream?
No.
So at
No.
like 2:00 this morning, I was up playing Aram for because I play League because I'm disgusting.
Oh yeah, I heard this.
And I was like, I said in all chat, I was like, Kagurabachi is the greatest manga of all time. And a guy on my team, like after like it was done, like with some fighting or whatever, was like, throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the Kagurabachi. Oh my goodness. I was like,
Oh,
at least one
no.
person in this game has to know what I'm talking about.
I
please.
just I love the I hate it, but I love the connected like memes among the shonen fan base. Like the domain expansion stuff was hilarious, and
Yes.
and you think I'm cute? Like just the interchange of the memes is
Oh yeah.
It's been great.
legitimately
It
the
has been
best
great.
thing.
They made an edit of that for Gojo.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
I died. Just the interplay has been really fun. Rare Twitter win there.
Literally.
I think the one thing out of Kagurabachi that I'm not the biggest fan. I love the background. I think that's one of my favorite parts. It's how the characters are drawn. It's just not my cup of tea. It's the same with JJK's manga. It's just not something that drew me into the series.
Right.
It's not something
haven't-
I think is the strongest suit of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I actually did enjoy the
Jojo-
first two chapters, but again, that's probably like why I'm just feel so bad for the author because like I actually did enjoy those chapters, and then it feels like he's just getting catfished.
Which is why I kind of want, before the hype and the memes die down, I do want Kagurabachi to be in a situation where people are actually going to be like, oh, this manga is actually decent. It's good. I want to stick around with it. I think that's the
And,
copium
if-
I want with this, because
Yeah,
the
and-
author deserves. I think every mangaka who starts off, no matter how controversial a first chapter is, aka like just like Undead Unluck, or how amazing a first chapter is, just like My Hero or Demon Slayer to an extent. I think they all deserve to get like the shot that Kagurabachi's getting. So I'm happy for the author, even if it does feel like they got the hype on just pure memes.
and,
yeah,
like,
this is their chance.
I mentioned this on Twitter earlier, but like with this and Mama Yu, if that's how that's pronounced, it feels like what would normally be condensed into a single chapter has been spread out for a few chapters of setup, and I actually really like that.
Yeah, Mama Yu is it's this slow and steady thing, I think. I haven't read the second part of Kagurabachi yet. The first one disappointed me in some ways, but like I think like the on paper stuff is good. But yeah, with Mama Yu, no, like they're going very deliberately with it. I'm worried it might be a little too slow, but I do like everything that was written so far. Like I think where Kagurabachi kind of jumped over its feet a bit. Mama Yu is dragging its feet a little bit, but maybe. But I mean, so long as
I will
it's
say that
good enough.
The second chapter does have a flashback in it already, so we're getting some character balance.
Yeah.
I do think that like one of the things I saw people complain about was how deadpan Chichiro is, and how he was always that way. So I think that the humor of the series is a little interesting because it's specifically like goofy sort of sidekick bounced off of the straight man. And I think people are I'm kind of curious about how that'll develop, because it's clear that the story is throwing humor at us, but it's the kind of humor that I think works better, interestingly enough, in like an animated or like live action form, where the person actually, you can like read, like see their deadpan reactions to the goofier stuff. Whereas in manga form, it's just a little. And this one doesn't take as much liberty with its art style to do like the exaggerated behavior next to the deadpan either. So
yeah,
it doesn't lean into the trope of the medium as much for that type of humor, which could help it. It could also hurt it in the long run, just because some people really do like the classics. Hey,
I will say, I'm reading Mama Yu's latest chapter right now. And I really like Corleo. Like I don't know, like on I believe it's the 12th page, 13th page, like his, like when he's talking about like why he ran back, that shot of him just crying. I don't know. The art for Mama Yu is both great and unique. I don't know.
It's got the art style somewhat reminds me of Claymore.
It reminds me of Tokyo Revengers and Claymore, like a fusion of the two.
Beating your dad up.
For the better, I think.
Yeah, so like I'm a fan. I'm enjoying Mama Yu. I think Kagurabachi right now is a lot of edge, but it's building its substance. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not it actually has the time to do so. Like I thought Ayashimon had some potential, but that didn't get enough time, I think, to really do what it needed to do. Hey you, what you fussing about?
Is Mama Yu worth checking out? Definitely, Cameron.
Princess Fussita, Princess Fussita,
Claymore Revenges, yeah.
Princess Fuss.
Kagurabachi isn't popular in Japan. I feel like it is getting popular, but the reception of how popular it is right now was really funny to see from the Japanese public.
I also
I mean,
think it's funny that
it's only
Shonen
been 2
Jump was like,
chapters
we've
as
seen
well.
what you've been posting.
Mm-hmm.
Read Kagurabachi free here. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like again, it's only been 2 chapters. Like it's so like things are still developing. Like it feels like it's still setting itself up. And
Man.
I mean, and that's normal, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, when it comes to Red Hood, I feel like Red Hood had some potential, but I'm gonna be honest with you, like the virality of Red Hood was for the absolute worst reason.
It was the fans. It was the fans looking at a specific character and be like, "Ooh."
Like people, and I'm pretty sure people dropped it because of the fact that that character didn't always look like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they looked at her butt went viral, and then they dropped it when they realized she wasn't always gonna be like adult looking, and that was it. And I'm like, you guys are reading stuff for the wrong reasons, but all
I'm gonna
right.
be honest.
I mean, to be
you
perfect,
say that I don't like that trope, that power.
Oh, I don't either, but
I don't like it with Bisky. I don't like it with There's another example I can give. Oh, Nell from Bleach. I don't like it with Nell.
yeah, no,
wait,
it isn't a good trope, but it's just kind of like.
hold up.
you
Nell
guys-
did that too, because I know, like, I only
you-
experienced Nell through Thousand Year Blood War when she was like a little girl.
Oh yeah, Nell has an adult form.
Yeah, and it's a form that a lot of Bleach fans hold dear to their hearts. Let's just say that.
Dear
see,
to the
I-
kids
And
and
a bit
boxes.
a bit further down as well.
like I didn't even read that far into Red Hood. I'm gonna be honest. I dropped it after chapter 1. It just didn't speak to me at all.
Mhm.
I know people were enamored with the art style, but the none of the set pieces really resonated with me. The main character, I mean, in general, like when the main character is a literal child, I struggle to connect with them. So like I just kind of dropped it. I didn't think the themes were that
Yeah.
strong either personally.
I just feel
But-
bad for Kawaguchi because obviously, like we all know, Kawaguchi was a assistant for Hori, and the seeing them get their own manga, that was great. But seeing it get axed, kind of, no pun intended. I don't know. It just felt really horroring.
It's a cutthroat world, the world of
Mhm.
manga, but the world in general sometimes. So yeah, no,
I
my pity for him, but I hope he gets another shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder how Hori reacted to it, because that is a fear Hori has.
Well, I remember
Like-
on Red Hood's final chapter, he mentioned in his chapter note that he shouted out Kawaguchi and told him that they would get a meal together and talk and stuff like that. And so like he was like he has been there. He is supportive.
Yes.
He was supportive about that. So
But yeah. All in all, I don't know. I feel like Red Hood could have. I feel like if Red Hood went on, it would have actually hit a point where I would have been really invested in it. So I'll be honest, I wasn't at all. I was the same as Seth. Some of the characters I just kind of latch onto.
I mentioned in my video recommending like manga that didn't last too long that it like you could be forgiven for wondering if how meta Red Hood ended up becoming was always a plan, or if that was Kawaguchi venting about the situation.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Also agree with Tyler. Red Hood or another manga or another magazine, would have been better. Yeah, I agree. Bo Cameron.
I know it
Both.
doesn't belong in that weekly whatever magazine runs 7 Deadly Sins because it would have been even worse.
We don't talk about
Yeah.
some of those sins.
freaky
We
ass
don't talk about
magazine.
that.
A tragedy.
It really is. It kind of hurts my heart how that series went, because I really loved it in the beginning.
I didn't watch past season 2, but I watched the movie. And I feel kind of bad for the movie. I am pretty sure it was established that the movie was one of the reasons why it went to another studio. And that just when, it started the decline of Seven Deadly Sins, especially with the public reception of it, which I'm happy with, because what Seven Deadly Sins managed to get away with, after season 3, it got highlighted.
That series never tricked me. I didn't fall for it. Well, not once.
I fell for it, unfortunately. I watched that first episode. I saw the reveal of the Sin of Wrath, Meliodas, and then Gil Thunder. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, where he tossed that spear. And the idea that it was based in Celtic mythology, that they didn't even mention Ireland, but that's fine with me. That's fine.
Well, I
Even
don't
though
remember
Meliodas
that
is
much-
Irish. That's
I don't
fine.
remember that much pedophilia being in Celtic mythology, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's just Japan.
Yeah.
oh,
Still.
that's not even Japan. That's Nakaba. He's
Mm.
weird.
Yeah. It's very
Here's the thing.
weird.
It's not even that it wasn't there at the beginning. It was that he just became increasingly aware that he could get away with shit that he didn't think he could get away with at the beginning. He was like, "Oh, really? And that's popular now? Okay, let me slide in more." They're just-
More creepy shit. You just
Yeah.
get
It's like-
creepier.
every single character. It's not even like one that's like one or two is like relegated to like
No.
gag or whatever. It's every character.
All the sins.
Are sinful.
Yeah. And like
Literally.
I was thinking about Seven Deadly Sins today because Giorno is watching One Piece, and he brought up Big Mom, and I remembered the Amnesia plotline, and that made me realize why I hate Amnesia so much in manga. It's because of Seven Deadly Sins, because of what happened with Diane.
Did he really?
Yeah, there was a Amnesia plotline with with Gouter or Goater.
Oh yeah, I know about that, but I didn't know that was the reason why you hated
Yeah,
Amnesia plotline.
I hate it. I hate Goater to a
It's
I don't
weird.
like
Gulcher is probably the least problematic one.
yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah,
he
for
started
sure.
one of the most problematic plot lines in the series.
It's just wild to think though that like
I can't. Yeah.
it Gulcher stuff is like incidentally bad. Everybody else is just like, bro, the fuck are you on? Like
I don't
Let's
get like
see. King groomed Diane.
then took her memory away.
Yeah.
Bond's lover is yeah.
A tiny child. Escanor's
Hmm?
Escanor ended up with a child too.
He didn't even end up with her, which made it even worse.
Yeah, he pretty much got probably the most tragic end in the series.
Yeah.
And then the main character fiends after a 17-year-old. Man,
dude,
why is all the coolest characters in that series problematic?
I thought Jericho was safe. I thought Jericho was
No,
safe. And
bro.
then came
She's
the
not
sequel
safe.
series, and she falls in love with Bond's son. And I'm like,
And
what?
takes him traveling with her so they can have one-on-one time when he's like 9. Like,
Oh,
bro.
I always loved you. Jail!
Yeah, it's over with. That's
Prison
the worst
time!
one. That's the worst one.
Bond should have ended up with Jericho.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, he should have.
I mean-
Elaine should have been left in the afterlife.
I feel like I should mention though, like I do acknowledge some of my favorite series have some very sus and weird shit in it. Like Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah.
Mushoku
Oh
Tensei, but
man.
it commits a couple of similar
Couple.
Couple.
There's a lot.
but
Rudius is just,
yeah,
season 1 Rudius.
but I feel like even Mushoku Tensei, at the very least, has the dignity to have like a decent storyline to go along with
Mhm.
it.
Amiz also has the decency to tell you that what Ruius has done and keeps doing is wrong.
Yeah.
78 Cents doesn't have that. Or
Yeah, I mean, it
some other manga.
indulges in it definitely to bait the weeb crowd, but like, I don't think the author really condones it either. Seven Deadly Sins is very bizarre. It's like, I know Jericho sees it as like, as acknowledged Jericho loving Bond's son is effed up, but at the same time, it's very clearly kind of hinting towards. Anyway, I don't want it. That series makes me so upset.
The one character that should have been kept pure.
And that's the thing too. There was no reason to do that.
There's none.
For a lot of that, no.
Like
I saw a tweet. I think this morning was like, "Oh, we got to search Horikoshi's hard drive when the series."
Oh my god, I saw that too.
Yep.
Like,
do you see the Oda comments?
yeah. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Horikoshi is doing what's like seen as exceedingly normal in manga. It's like he is very tame. I don't think people understand this.
it's odd because I do find him to be like, of the people who have like fan service in their manga still, he's probably the least egregious.
Yeah, and he keep going after him because his series is the most popular. Like, dude, okay, there was this tweet for this really. Have you guys heard of Azure Lane?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Okay, so there was this tweet of this new skin, and it looked ridiculous. It looked terrible. Okay, but I found it so funny. It drew the ire of Twitter when there are so many freaking child and lolly characters in that game. None of them got any of the same amount of flack. I'm like,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
like jumping off that, right? Because I saw someone. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was based on Momo. And they were like, there was another one that mentioned like how she is dressed, right? And someone brought up Oda with Rebecca. And I was like, yeah. Like, why? Because I've seen Rebecca fall on the radar. So why is she? But we bring up Momo. You bring up My Hero. It's because My Hero is easy to target.
Right.
It will get the most traction.
Dress Rosa was also a long time ago too.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing. Like,
when did it start?
People are just not used to this stuff. They don't know how deeply baked it is in anime.
Right.
I gotta be honest with you. It's like, that's what makes the industry what it is. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. Fate Stay Night, one of the biggest IPs in the world now. Not just anime, one of the biggest IPs ever. That started as a porn game. Like, it had a sequel that was a porn game too.
There's a reason they don't bring that over to the West fully translated.
Yeah. So, I mean, even Fate Stay Night, the original novel, is not like, they released something called Riata Noir, which is like the perfected censored version of the game. They haven't even brought that over yet because, well, it's visual novels are kind of a narrow market, and people have been asking for years to get an officially localized version, but for now we have to resort to shortcuts.
Yeah.
Hang on. Wait, Tyler. Put respect on God Usopp's name. He's always worth something.
See, Tyler gonna call him Fraud Usopp.
Yeah.
Man.
Tyler does not care for post skip Usopp. Neither do I, because he's a disappointment.
He's not the best.
No, he's not.
And I would argue a lot of the Straw Hats after the time skip kind of decline in quality compared to their pre-time skip. Can we not mention Sanji? It's gonna upset me.
Sanji post time skip is a fucking creep.
That's why he was never at Fishman Island.
He was not too great before, but after time skip, he just like reasoning for it is like, oh, he was trapped on. And get this, if another author did this, they would get a lot more flack. But Oda does it. It's like,
Is this because like apparently Sanji spent the time skip on the Isle of transphobic stereotypes?
yeah.
Yeah.
So he
That
Oh,
is,
was
he
chased
actually
for
gets
2
flack for
freaking
that.
years. Sorry, Kendra.
It's okay. No, I was saying people got flacked about. Well, did get flacked about that
Mhm.
part of it though. I did see some tweets about that.
Which is
it's just a
why I
lot of
love
people cape
the
for him too.
yeah. I mean, Sanji's one of my favorite characters, but
He's
I
also
can't
one of my
defend him.
favorite.
I can't defend him.
I can't
It's-
defend that part of him, but he
Yeah.
is a great written character
Mhm.
for me. He's one of my faves.
True.
So
I actually have no idea how the live action could possibly even touch the concept of Okama. Just like
my stance on it is Sanji's. And here's the thing: is that despite Fisherman Island being awful for Sanji,
Yeah.
he is still
What do
better
you mean? He
written
was never there.
than almost every other Straw Hat post time skip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Like the fall off for Robin is painful.
The fall off
It's-
of Chopper too, which
It's
hurts.
disappointing. It hurts. Yeah.
Like people bring up, and I stand by it too. Chopper's like inclusion into Wano, especially with the smile fruits, upsets me. And I get it. Like, oh, they did give an explanation, like it can't be cured, but we don't see Chopper's like reaction. Like he should have been upset. And it's the same with Sanji to an extent, where we did have him as a silver chef, but I would have loved to see him like have more of a role because of his motto. Like, even if this person is awful, even if this person is innocent, I will feed everyone. And one of the big things about Wano is that the citizens have been starved. They're fiending for food, which I
Mhm.
would have loved to get. But even still, Sanji proved to be the best written Straw Hats. And I say over Luffy. I still love
agree.
Luffy.
And I love
Zoro
Luffy.
has been sorry.
Mhm. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so Zoro, like, okay, I rag on Sanji for his gag, but honestly, he's a lot more interesting than Zoro's turned out to be. I'm gonna be honest. Zoro is just
Right.
kind of like the cool guy now.
I mean, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah,
I still love
Zoro's
him.
not getting Zoro's not getting a whole cake island type of arc.
I think that comes down to Zoro doesn't really need it, but at
He
the same
don't.
time, Zoro did kind of need it in Wano, considering this is. I hate bringing it up because people say this a lot, but it was kind of like this should have been Zoro's time to shine a bit more.
Right.
I mean,
Because the
that's where,
entirety of post time skip was Sanji's, like this was kind of a rise in Sanji's character.
that's
Mhm.
where his master and queen are descended from. So
Right.
it should have been more than what it was. But no, you still had him like going around searching for a sword for most of Act 2, and then in Act 3, they're fighting, so there's not really any. Man, Wano.
Anyways, guys, sorry, but I actually have to kind of leave rather abruptly. I don't really have a I mean, as far as MHA goes, I don't have much more to say on it. I don't think a lot of it is just waiting to see how this fight concludes. So
we are in the wrap up phase, so I get it.
Yeah, I'm a just wrap up real quick and early and just say that I think now is the time for characters like Bakugo to step up and save All Might's ass. I think that now I think is the time for that. It was a good send off for Stain, and just seeing All Might cling to life after he started with nothing, like, and now he's using everything he has. Like, just the journey is awesome, and I love what Horikoshi has done with him so far. So here's hoping he lives a long, healthy life, or at least a very dignified demise, if that does come to pass. Anyway, thanks for having me, guys. Have a great day. God bless.
Take care, Seth.
Hi, Seth.
Bye.
All right.
Bye,
Let
Seth.
let me start the wrap up here. Actually, let me go ahead and say, Joseph, final thoughts on the chapter.
Very good chapter. Really excited to see how things start to converge, especially since, like, if this is technically before Labrava got the following way to settle, and if All For One's going to goop warp Shigaraki and Deku to him, or if he's gonna make the trek to them. It's really exciting to see what's gonna happen next, and I can't wait.
All right. Thomas?
You can hear me, right? My mic isn't.
Yes.
picking up.
I can
Okay, so I think today was a great day for me personally because I got Haikyuu back. That trailer was amazing, but also, bless you, also My Hero chapter was fantastic. Seeing in the officials made it even better because it's been killing me the entire week just thinking about like how bad the scans were, and I needed to see the official, and it didn't disappoint. Seeing, I talked about it with like how reminiscent All Might's, how All Might is drawn is very similar to Deku during Deku Black. And it really breaks my heart. I don't, although I was on All Might dying, like I was in that camp, I kind of don't want him to die. So if All For One warps Shigaraki over, I would also want him to warp Deku over just for Deku All Might to have that goodbye if he does die. If he doesn't, it's also a great way for All Might to see Deku become the victor here. Like seeing Deku shape himself into the hero that he promised he was going to be. Man, I can't wait. Also with Stain, I wanted to bring it up, but I don't know if I was the only one. I kind of felt not hollow, but I was kind of wanting Stain to mention Deku because of how much of an impact Deku left on Stain back in the Hero Killer Stain arc, back in the Hosu, especially when he helped Deku against the Nomu, who was his childhood bully as well. I kind of felt cheated out of that, although that kind of feels very selfish of me to say. I just wanted it. But overall, I can't wait for next week. It's going to be a great day for the community, especially because it's going to be, what chapter is it going to be? It's going to be 402. Man, the series has been going on for over 400 chapters, and we're still not at the end. I feel like everyone should, from now on, instead of just arguing with each other, just enjoy My Hero as it lasts, because it's not going to be around for much longer. Sure, you're going to have the anime and side projects like side manga, or like the new movie that's coming out, and the OVA, which is going to start next month, I'm pretty sure, at Comic-Con. I wanted to go, but I won't be able to. Bless you. But yeah. Thank you for having me on. Like the stream, everyone. Make sure to stay safe, drink water, eat some food, because I'm hungry too, so I'm gonna go get some food, and that's it. Bye-bye.
Volk?
Bye.
I really enjoyed how All For One kind of flipped things around a little bit this chapter. He made things like even more kind of intense and ambiguous. It's like, okay, well, what's gonna happen exactly next? So I think Stain went out in a way I was happy with. Maybe we see him get up and he does something else, but I think that's probably it for him. But I don't know. I found it funny how he like knew the scent of All Might and his blood. It's just like a really devoted stalker. And then yeah, I just seeing All Might just kind of laid low, but still crawling forwards. And like I went back, and it was actually very similar to how Deku was framed very similar to how Deku was kind of crawling forward in like chapter 2. It was talking about being like the strongest hero. This right here has been All Might being the most like Deku he's ever been. It's like doing insane kind of workarounds, strategy, using support items. And so now we're here at the very end. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen next week, but I do know that I really want to see Deku versus Shigaraki. Rewind back to the beginning and see what was going on there. I really loved. I really liked how visceral the art this chapter was, especially. Like, I know Horikoshi's art is great, that goes without saying, but it was like just seeing All Might just bloodied and still crawling forward. It was so vivid. It was such striking imagery. Man, this is like I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to see what happens next. And whatever happens to All Might, I've been satisfied with how he's been used. Whether he dies or lives, I'm gonna be fine with it either way. I just think either way, you do need to clear the way for Deku versus Shigaraki to be like the ultimate title match ever done. So, yeah. Kendra?
Yeah.
It's close.
Oh, cool. So yeah, the chapter was fantastic as always. Any chapter with All Might in it is gonna be a 10 out of 10 for me. And I pretty much agree with Volk and Seth and Thomas were saying that whatever happens to All Might, I've been pretty much satisfied how his character has turned out tremendously. And I'm not even going to try to predict what happens after this or the next stage is going to be. I'm just going to enjoy the ride. Like Thomas said, it's just better to just enjoy what comes next and just do it from there. So I'm pretty much just happy with how everything has turned out so far. So yeah, thanks for having me as always.
Thank you, everybody that came through. I appreciate everybody. It was a good time to be either